Anybody who ignores it is just being foolish, right? They just putting their fingers in their ears and they don't want to hear what's going on. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be on here nonstop. Expect me back here at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. That'll be 37 minutes from now. Please share the live streams. We'll do a full nother update on this, run down all the earthquakes for everybody. We're going to be going all night. I've got some coffee brewing, and we might not be done yet. There may be others that are taking place, okay? So word up, guys. Much love. Hey, everybody. Sense here. Hold on one second. Set. .0. Okay, everybody, we've got ourselves a situation developing here. A 7.3 to 7.5 earthquake has just struck in northern South America at the mouth of the Caribbean at Venezuela, meeting into the Leeward Islands. This is our spot, a transfer zone, where we expect pressure and force to come across and transfer over. This is the largest earthquake in years in the Caribbean, and certainly for Venezuela, it's the last thing they need with everything going on. We can expect shock waves to be coming up from this, actual physical shock waves to be spreading out across the Caribbean right now. And I've got the National Data Buoy Center open right now. Looks like a lot of the buoys are off in the area around Venezuela. We have to wait a little bit to find out whether or not a wave has been generated. However, this is a significant size quake. They just downgraded it to 7.2. They'll probably bring it back up. It's on land at the sea, right at the shores, so it could cause localized waves. Certainly could if there's any kind of landslides that happen out in the ocean right here off the coast. Definitely close enough to the ocean to be aware that a 7 could cause slight wave activity in the location. Now, the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center and so forth, let's go check that. Okay. And just see what they've got. They don't have the earthquake. Now, this is for the Pacific, of course. Let's go check the Caribbean. They don't even have the earthquake listed yet. So it's too preliminary. It just hit within the past few minutes at most. Now this earthquake comes at light, again, it's just a light depth here. So this is going in at just a few kilometers into the crust. It's not a deep earthquake. Now we just had our biggest, deepest earthquake ever that we've ever seen over here in the West Pacific. Now look at our transfer zone. Okay, over to the transfer zone. They just downgraded the earthquake. USGS just weighed in at 6.9. Go figure. Well, yeah, we don't accept that we know it's bigger than that. So USGS coming in at 6.9. We'll throw out their readings right now. We don't trust their first initial readings on any of it. They always bring it in at, so if it's a 7.5, they'll bring it in at 6.9. If it's an 8, they'll bring it in at 7.9. It's a joke what the USGS does. So we're just going to throw out what they have, and we're going to go with 7.3 to 7.5 as original reported magnitude until further notice. So 7.5, 7.3 striking in northern South America the day after, 48 hours after our biggest, deepest quake. So really what we've got going on here is a crescendo. It is a feedback loop. It is going all the way around the planet and coming back through. And what we've got going on overall is a disturbance happening with the Pacific plate that has just, well, nudged South America. And you can see where it was starting. It was starting about, well, 24 hours ago. A line of quakes across Central America and southern South America. Now we have the biggest earthquake in years over to the east in the Eastern Caribbean. And let's go check the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center again, see if they've, or the Caribbean Warning Center here. Okay, they do have the earthquake now. They do not have a warning watch or advisory in effect. Information only at this point. Preliminary earthquake parameter 7. Yeah, they've got it at 7. They're going to have to bring it up. Let's see. Based on all available data, there's no significant tsunami threat from this earthquake. However, there is a very small possibility of tsunami waves along the coast located nearest the epicenter. Okay, just as I thought. So it is a big deal for the location, certainly causing major damage in the region. Let's go get our stats on this. Again, this is coming, the information is now coming from the USGS, but we know they're going to bring that one back up. Hopefully they will bring it back up. I don't trust those 0.9 readings at all. 0.9 readings are point BS. So let's go look it up. Where's the earthquake epicenter? This is a big deal, guys. Another large earthquake has just hit on the opposite side of the plate, on the opposite side of the planet, within a day of the biggest quake we've ever seen down below the entire Pacific. So here we are. What's our nearest towns? Carupano, Rio Caribe, Agua Dulce, Agua Fria, San Juan de las Galdanas, San Juan. Okay, there we go. So you get the picture, you know where it is. It's striking right along the ocean, guys, so it no doubt was felt all the way up here into the Leeward and Virgin Islands and going around, probably maybe even felt in Puerto Rico. Maybe. That is far enough away that it might not be, but around Port of Spain, definitely around Grenada. Guys, you just got shaken with the largest earthquake you've had in years, and it came from this, no doubt about it. It's spreading out in both directions. Going out to the west, all the way across the West Pacific, and going even into Asia at this point, and Africa, and it went up and around to the United States, striking with a near 5, now downgraded to 4.6, off the coast, right in our warned area at Haida Gwaii, Port Hardy, Canada. So this one, though, I mean, what more do we need? We had our 6 just a few days back, now we have our 7 over to the east. It's a big amount of movement. This is go time, as we've been telling you. You need to have an earthquake plan and be prepared. I would like to point out where this earthquake is. Look at the tip of our arrow. And we follow our arrow back. Where does it go to? It goes right back to where we got our push. But it's a greater amount. So the push that was a 6 has now been increased to a 7. Like I told you guys, everywhere where we're currently seeing 6s, we're going to see 7s. Everywhere where we see 7s, we may see 8s. And certainly everywhere where we see 4s, we are seeing 5s now. So there's been a magnitude increase across the planet, including over in Europe, with Italy being hit. Italy got hit on the plate boundary with a 4-point something, and Spain got hit, Azores was hit. All of our X's have been hit now. Look, X hit right on the money, X hit on the money, X hit on the money. And then over here, force coming out across. Again, they got it at 6.9. It's really 7.3. And overall, it traces back to here. So the whole planet has been disturbed in the past 2 days, thanks to this one. And we're not done yet. This is day 1.5, day 2, into a 10-day watch. 10 days. We're 2 days in. Look what's going on. Sevens are spreading out across the planet now, in rare locations where we hardly ever see something this big. It's been years since this has happened. And look, you just follow the arrow over. Imagine a great push that just bypasses this and goes right to there. Boom, that's what just happened. So the push that came from here pushed that 6 and the force over, and now we're seeing a big increase over near the Atlantic. So if you're just now tuning in, about 2 days ago, we got our biggest, deepest earthquake we've ever seen, 8.2. And spreading out from that point, like a fracture in the windshield, here's everything that's hit since. Now let's get all the smaller earthquakes out of there and just look at the 5s and greater, and you're going to see which way it went. Went all the way over to here, and it spread out over to here. Boom. So here is everything since the big quake. So we have to incorporate in that 5.1. So it's obvious South America is the direct conduit. And again, shout out to 40 for that one. The conduit for a connection, and it may be a piezoelectric connection. It may be. There may be a VLF connection, electrical, between the points. But again, that's getting into hypotheticals. We have the biggest earthquake in the Caribbean in years. And it's all tied together. The big disturbance going around the plate right now is exactly what we were telling you to be ready for over on the opposite side of the plate. Look, it's not just one side that moves. It's all sides that move. And the perimeters where the plates meet are the spots where the pressure releases. And this is directly at the spot where the plates meet and pressure releases. Big earthquake, Caribbean, shaking up all of Venezuela, shaking up likely most of the Caribbean or eastern Leeward Islands as well. And it's a big deal. If you're over in Indonesia, we got a warning going for you for the next several days. Over here, for another new, larger earthquake. You're in 5s right now, so we'll go up a whole magnitude from where we are now. That's a 10-fold increase in power expected. And I hope I got that right. If I'm wrong, please don't fault me. I'm basing this on an earthquake I've never... There we go. They just elevated the earthquake, guys. .0. There we go. All right, there it is. So, well, you guys see it here. You get to see it happen real time. You've got to see it play out over the past few days, all since this big disturbance below the plate. There's clearly something going on down below the plates, and now it's coming up through the plate boundaries. But look at the distance apart on these. We're talking antipodes here. We're talking opposite sides of the plate. Not antipodes, opposite sides of the planet, but antipodes of the plate. So one side and the other. Tip here, tip here. Now really, this is the tip meeting up with South America. So we really need to pay attention at this point. If you know anybody in South America, you can let them know. Look, we've been watching for this. We're, again, wondering where this is going to spread out to. Now we know. Now we know. We get a big, huge, deep quake here within a day or two. We have to watch South America for significant activity to develop. This is going to displace a lot of areas over to the east, guys. So we're talking mid-Atlantic ridge, may even cause a shockwave up the east coast. We might see the activity kick up on the east coast of the United States. Maybe. Look, this is uncharted waters. I've been saying this now for 2 days. Uncharted waters, and already here we are in uncharted waters, and what happened? Half the planet moved, or 3/4 of the planet, and now the biggest quake in the Caribbean in years. So they're definitely connected. Anybody who said that there was no relation between large quakes across the plates is definitely wrong. A medal winner, a professor, weighed in on this. A couple years ago this happened. We saw back and forth between Ecuador and Fiji, and Mexico and Japan. Actually, the earthquakes went Japan, Ecuador, Fiji, Mexico. And I made note of that progression of large quakes a couple of years ago, and a professor came over and dogged me really hard and said that there's no relation between quakes across distances over the plates and stuff. Well, I mean, here we are now. I'd throw out what they say completely and maybe even go back and chastise them for saying it, but I don't have time for that crap right now. We've got too many important things going on, like getting warnings out to people across the planet to be on watch for large earthquake activity. God forbid that there's people that died or got injured in this, because we should all be on extreme alert right now and have our earthquake plans dusted off. If you live along these lines, if you live along the lines where the arrows are, I do. I live in the New Madrid seismic zone. We're getting a swarm here today. Look, the whole planet is being perturbed. The whole planet, and I'll show you the swarm tonight at 10 p.m., but this update is solely for the largest earthquake to strike in the Caribbean in years, directly across from, following our arrow out to, our biggest earthquake in years down below the plate. Or biggest ever. It's up for debate. Biggest ever down below the plate, or biggest in years? Certainly since 10 years, I've never seen anything like this. So, biggest here to biggest here. Come on. There's a direct conduit, a direct connection across. And what is it? It's this, where we have Leviathan, where they deleted the earthquake. They deleted the 5.0 earthquake. USGS didn't even bother to report it in the Samoan Islands last night. Do you see it on here? It's gone. Why is it gone? Because they didn't report it. USGS didn't report it. Europeans did. Europeans' feed is 50 earthquakes or less. So we get 50 earthquakes on the European feed, and then they fall off and new earthquakes replace them. Well, USGS didn't report it on its 7-day feed of 5.1 in American Samoa. But now, today, as proof that the rare earthquake in Samoa was like I said, a freight train coming across on the tracks, where does it go? Crashes right into the end and pushes the whole mountain. And in this case, it's not a mountain. It's not a train hitting a mountain. It's Mother Nature hitting a plate. But the same effect could be said, that there's a shockwave that'll travel through that, and the train will derail and go around. And that's what's going on here. That the force is derailed and it goes around and causes large activity on the arrows as we go across the northern part of South America. We need to pay attention very close at this point, now that a new 7 has struck across the plate, and this is really day 2 of the day 2 of the 10-day watch. This is day 2. We have 8 more days to go. Now, I'm stumbling over that because really it's a day and a half. Internationally, it's a day and a half. They just upgraded the earthquake to 7.3, guys. Just upgraded the earthquake to 7.3. Hold on, who's weighed in on that? Who's got it at 7.3? USGS now has it at 7.3. Let's go check our station locations on this and just see what we've got for all the stations reporting. Wow, USGS. Of course, no amplitudes. Let's look at body wave. What do we got going on here? Do we have, oh yeah, we've got 7.5. Now, we always throw out the high end, but we've got 7.5, 7.5, 7.6. A lot of 7s, some mid-range 6s, 7.4. Lots of 7s on the list. Enough 7s on the list that we know it's most likely a 7. Look at that. 7.7. Okay, we'll throw out the high end, like I said. That's a big quake. This is a big one, guys. This is a big quake. No doubt about it now. With that kind of size, at this depth, likely did cause a little damage. Man, look how many stations are weighing in, and look how many 7s detected. Yeah, it's going all the way up to 7.7 is the highest that I'm seeing on the list so far. So we'll throw out the 7.7 and 7.5, and we'll go with what they're going with, which is 7.3 at this point. All right, man. Wow, I'll tell you what, guys. You want to talk about action time, go time. This is it. Big earthquake down here means the entire planet has shifted and is still shifting. Day 2 of a 10-day watch. 8 more days to go. You can let your friends, family, loved ones, coworkers know that the force that's coming up on the underside of the plate spreads out across the plates. Earthquakes are not random. This is right next to our arrow, at the edge of the Leeward Islands, at our spot where we've been building pressure for God knows how long. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. The big deep 8 is disturbing the whole planet, and we're not done yet. So dust off your earthquake plans. Or if you don't have any earthquake plans, you probably should make some now, especially if you live along the lines of progression where the arrows point. So if you live downstream from these big earthquakes, downstream implies a flow, does it not? So think of it like you're living on a river and there's a big deluge of rain. Well, you know to expect some higher levels of water, right? A flood. And if it rains a lot, you know to expect a flash flood, right? Same thing goes for the precipitation of seismic forces. That there's a flash flood of seismic forces happening right now that are spreading out across the rivers. But the rivers are the cracks in the plates. The plate boundaries and fracture zones. They're being inundated right now. Even the New Madrid seismic zone is starting to swarm with microquakes. Like every place on the planet is starting to move. This is Mother Nature just shook herself off. If you think of a dog shaking off all the water off him all the way down from front to tail, that's what's going on right now. I hate to be that, like primitive on the way I'm describing this, but that's what's going on. Mother Nature is shaking through the plate boundaries, and it's wiggling out all the way through to one side to the other. Ooh, Iceland has just been hit. Iceland has just been hit on our letter X. Now this fulfills all our X's up. Look, X hit. These are the only earthquakes to be reported today, guys. So X hit, X hit, X hit, X hit, all in a day. The entire mid-Atlantic ridge. The only thing missing now is the X at the North Pole next to Mount Dutch. Supervolcano. So, okay. This is go time now, really it is. Look at it, man. The mid-Atlantic ridge is filled in, equidistantly spaced on all our X's all the way across the entire plate. A 7 just hit in the Caribbean. No tsunami yet, but you know what? Let's just do one more quick check. Let's go to the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. See what they've got for us. Let's hit refresh. No current warning or watch, but we do have a threat message. Okay, hold on. We now have a threat message. Okay, this message is intended for information only, right? Okay, all right. National authorities will determine the appropriate level of alert for each country, may issue additional or more refined information. 7.4 now where they're at. Okay, I probably agree with that. 7.4. Hazardous tsunami waves are possible for the coast located within 300 kilometers of the earthquake epicenter. They are possible. Uh-oh. Guys, tsunami wave possible. Let's go ahead and look up the National Data Buoy Center. Tsunami waves are possible. Let's go see. Do we have any motion happening on these buoys? We'll just zoom in a little bit and see. Now, man, all the buoys are off. They're all red. Look. All the buoys that would be normally on, they've got off. Oh my God. Well, we have to wait to find out if there's a tsunami being generated for at least an hour. It moves at the speed of a jetliner, and it takes about an hour to fly from Venezuela up into Puerto Rico. Probably about maybe even a little bit further, maybe even a little longer. So at the speed of a jetliner, this would be spreading out. We have to wait to find out if there's a tsunami. We don't have any buoys in it. Now, if these were active, if this one was on, or this one was on, then we'd know right away whether or not there's a tsunami being generated. Come on, this is going right up into the United States. We don't have any buoys around here? Oh my God. What kind of asinine foolishness is this? By the time it gets to here, that's right at Key West. You get a 2-second warning for a tsunami to come in. Oh my goodness. All right, well, we're not going to know for a few minutes, apparently. It's been ongoing now for about 20 to 30 minutes since the earthquake struck, and there are possible waves that could be generated hazardous within 300 kilometers. Let's go get a line measurement tool 300 kilometers from this location. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We'll measure in kilometers from the location in a 300-mile radius out to sea. 300 kilometer. 100, 200, here's 300. So we're going up. Wow. Okay, so that goes out even with just west of Barbados, Grenada. Look, it goes all the way down here, and where does it go out? About 300 all the way over to Caracas. Wow. All right, guys. Well, you see where 300 goes out to. We would need to let everybody in the, well, South Caribbean know. That would be St. Lucia, Morne, Grand Bonhomme, Grenada, and all the smaller islands in between. Look at all these. So we need to let all those people know now, because it takes about an hour for the wave, about the speed of a jetliner. So if it took off immediately at the point of the earthquake, then it's reaching out. It'll reach out about 300 kilometers. We still have time to let people there know, just in case. Okay? So you need to let them know now in case a wave comes in. That's what it's from. And the wave, it would be generated by the largest earthquake in the Caribbean in years as a result of this over here. So this over here, a day and a half, 2 days ago, has now caused this over here, and this over here has now generated a tsunami. At least a warning that we have to get out to the people. Now, the local officials in Venezuela and these other agencies down here in the Caribbean will be assessing and doing their own warnings. I'm just telling you that there's a generalized warning. I'm not saying a wave is formed. We don't know. We don't know. All the buoys are off. All right, so time now, 5:03 p.m. If you're just now tuning in, the largest earthquake in the Caribbean in years has struck. Tsunami warning has been generated, but we don't know if any wave is actually there. It's all based upon the big movement on the opposite side of the plate, which happened just a day and a half, 2 days ago. And we are in a 10-day watch, 2 days in on a 10-day watch, 8 more days to get under our belt. This is go time. Let your friends, family, loved ones, and coworkers know they need to have an earthquake plan, have an emergency kit, make sure the emergency kit is updated, has the appropriate things in it. Now, I don't know what kind of lifestyle you live, so it's up to you to put what you put in your emergency kit, but it needs to be lightweight enough to grab and be able to go out at a moment's notice, or to shelter in place and grab after you shelter in place. So sheltering in place means taking shelter when the earthquake strikes, obviously. Protect yourself from falling debris underneath a table or a desk. But if you're in a brick or a cinder block house, you need to exit the brick or cinder block house. You start feeling shaking in a brick or a cinder block house, think about it. It's a stone structure. It's not supposed to move. So you start feeling shaking, you immediately make your way to the door. You don't wait around to find out, is it a large earthquake or not? So by the time you get to the door, you'll know. And you exit the building, you make sure that you know what's outside. Basic stuff here. Make sure you know what's outside the building if you're going to be exiting, and if you're going to shelter in place, of course, make sure you know which table or desk you want to go to, and have that pre-planned out. Just think about it in your head. That's it. You just think about, okay, where am I going to go when an earthquake strikes? I'm going to go underneath that table or that desk, or I'm going to go out that door and go outside to this point. Now, if you're going outside, grab your emergency kit, which you should have set by the door somewhere, so you can grab at a moment's notice. And in the kit, you know, batteries, first aid, sanitation, a little bit of food, a little bit of water, change of clothes, set of shoes, extra set of keys, ID. If you've got extra cash, nobody does, but if you do, you could put some in there. And that's just some basics that you can meet. I'm sure, again, you'll think of better things than what I just said here. So let's now save this as a video over on YouTube so people can watch it back in the future. And if you're watching live on Twitch, you won't see an interruption at all. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see this quickly shut off and then come back on. So please, if you could, share the live stream, share the warnings. We have our global earthquake forecast, which is out for this week, calling for this kind of activity to take place. It's over on my YouTube channel as well, titled Global Earthquake Forecast. Pretty easy to find. And you can share it to everybody. And if you need to, just write down the areas. You know, there's a lot of people that can't watch YouTube videos, or they don't speak the language or whatever. Just type it down. Hey, we're watching here. We're watching for 7s and 8s to pop off across the plate in the next several days due to the biggest, deepest quake we've ever seen. If you live along the Pacific Ring of Fire, if you live along these plate boundaries, we got to warn billions of people at this point. And there's nothing to panic over. This is normal. If this doesn't happen, we get a big deep quake down below the plate and we don't see it respond, then there's something wrong. Physics then stopped. So we get a push below something, you shouldn't be shocked to find that it's going to move, especially if the push is great enough. So now that you got the basics understood, let me explain really quickly. The force starts where our deep earthquakes are, and it spreads out across the plates in all directions, following the plate boundaries. So now that you understand that portion of this, earthquakes are not random. They follow the plate boundaries and craton edges. Okay? So I want to thank everybody for getting the warnings out. I think we may have been, at least some injuries may have been averted. People are on high watch right now, for those of us who know. And there's no reason to hold this information back from anybody. It's okay to tell somebody to be prepared for something. Hope for the best, that it goes away. But it's like a storm at this point. You can't ignore it. If you ignore it, you're being foolish. It's like ignoring a hurricane or something. So we hope it will die out in the next several days, but we have a 10-day watch going. We're only 2 days in, and now we got 7s popping off, record-breaking earthquakes over in the Caribbean. Come on. Opposite sides of the plate? Come on. This is go time. Much love, guys. I'll be back in just a few. How about this? We'll do another update at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. That'll give you 25 minutes to share the stream, tell everybody you know what's going on, and tell them to tune back in, and I'll do another update and fully explain everything again. We'll also go over a few of the other earthquakes around the plate so you can understand if you know what's going on in the U.S., over in Japan. For everybody who's around the plate, you need to understand what's going on. Because the 7 popping off over here is not all that she wrote. We're going to see more. Okay? See you back here in about 25 minutes. Please, please share the stream. Or just share the information. You can leave me out of it if you have to. I'm not trying to get my name out there like this. I was just planning on having a chill day today. Waiting to see what happened. Now here we are. Another night. I got to brew some coffee. Jeez. Tsunami warning. What more do we need? A tsunami warning. Gee. All right, guys. Much love.
Hey guys, it's Tuesday, 1:16 p.m. on
Hello, everybody. It is 5:31 p.m. Central Time on the 21st of August, 2018. It is Tuesday here in the United States, Wednesday internationally, and let me welcome you into the Earthquake 3D livestream. In case you're not aware of what's going on, we've got some breaking news out of the Caribbean. The largest earthquake in years striking right on the shores of Venezuela, going into the Leeward Islands, South Caribbean. And there was a preliminary tsunami warning that was generated for a 300-kilometer radius around the location. I think that has now been lifted. We're going to turn on a display capture so you can come along with me, and we'll just go look all this information up. This is the largest earthquake in years, and it can be traced directly back through where our 6.1 struck. And we trace that back all the way to where our largest earthquake, deepest earthquake we've seen ever, struck 2 days ago. So first, this big, deep quake happened, put pressure up on the underside of the plate. Pressure came out and went up here to the north and struck at the American Samoa region with a 5.1, indicating that force was coming across right where Leviathan is, the force from the deep coming up from the abyss, and then it comes over, the force does, and hits South America like a wall. And I talked about this last night, that the volcanoes up here were lighting up, and that there was an increase in seismic activity today. Look at the white-colored earthquakes. These all struck before this big earthquake, 7.3, over in Venezuela. All this activity kicked off across Central America and South America first. Now that force is traced back to the big, deep earthquake that struck over here. Now let's go look up and see what the tsunami situation is. Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, PTWC. You guys can search that in any search engine. It should bring this up, and click on Caribbean. And what you'll see is they had this localized threat warning. Okay, now they said there is no tsunami threat now, which is good. That's good news. So we can go ahead and get that, scratch that off the list. That's good. Now we just have damage from the earthquake itself to deal with on land. So no tsunami means that the people up to the north most likely felt heavy shaking, though. That would be the southern leewards going up towards Barbados and as far south into, let's say, Brazil, and going southwest all the way into Colombia. Most people probably felt this earthquake. And again, where did this earthquake come from? It's the largest in years. Why are we seeing the largest earthquake in years suddenly strike over here? Well, we just trace it back to the largest, deepest quake we've ever seen from 2 days ago, right here. Boom. So this gave us a push all the way across, and it's going that way over to the east, but it's also going over to the west. So if you live over to the west, look, this should be like a warning sign to you that for the next 8 days, we have a 10-day watch going from the point of this big, deep quake. 10-day watch. Now, we're 2 days in, and we saw a spread of 5s go all the way over to Europe, and we see a new 7-point-something pop up over in the Eastern Caribbean, the largest in years. This is definitely connected. Both sides of the plate are in motion now. So what happened originally was the shock wave, and this is not a physical shock wave, this is a progression of earthquakes, the seismic force that came up through this caused a disturbance at the location itself. That's a given at the epicenter. But then the seismic force spread out across and dropped off equal distantly spaced earthquakes all the way along the way, going up towards Japan and all the way over into the Indian Ocean and South Europe. Now, Europe moved today. North Italy got hit. Mid-range 4.something struck in Italy, and all of our X's have been hit. Marks the spot at Iceland with a near 4. Mid-range 3 striking at the Azores. X marks the spot. X marks the spot 4.95.0 last night, and X marks the spot down at the South Sandwich Islands 5.0 again a day ago. So all the points have been hit except for this one, and this one right next to it, the biggest in years. So we'll consider that a hit as well. All the X's have been hit, and this is on really 48 hours in on this big earthquake. Okay, all right. Let me get a display capture turned on here, and you guys should be able to see what I'm seeing. Before we even get into the earthquake update, let's just go quickly and look at the latest, and we'll bring it down here. Now, again, we've got all kinds of reports, but look at what we've got, guys. Look at this. This is exactly what I'm talking about with debris falling outside of a building. If you go running out, look, the building's still intact. So it's a parking garage, too, it looks like. So you could be inside the parking garage, you might run out and you run into a worse situation than just staying inside. I mean, check it out, guys. Look, we got live shots of all the... Look at this right here. Look at this one. This one is amazing. This is some kind of restaurant. Let me turn that off. So, I mean, check it out. Just big shout-outs to all the people who are getting video out of this. Of course, you need to be safe and be careful. But you can see we're talking major damage down in Venezuela, all along the coast and in the surrounding cities. So that's where we started. This earthquake is where we first started. While I was doing the update on this, then a near 7.0 or 6.6 struck over here right next to New Caledonia at the mouth of Vanuatu and Solomon Islands, Solomon Sea over to the west. Now, this is the halfway point that we were talking about just the other day, just when this big, deep 8 struck. So, the good news on this is that the earthquakes that are coming up are about a magnitude and a half less than the 8. But still, we're getting a magnitude less over here, and we're getting a magnitude less over here. It means that we're seeing a spread of large activity spread out. This is option number 2. Option number 1 was that we get a single larger earthquake 1.1 magnitude larger than the 8.2, which would come into 9.3. So there were two options. One was a single larger earthquake. The other was a planet-wide disturbance. And I think we know which option Mother Nature took, the planet-wide disturbance. And it spread all the way down into New Zealand. And New Zealand hasn't even been hit yet, but it's going to. And same with over to the west in Indonesia and up in Japan. Now we're going to talk about our halfway silent points here. We need to get the warnings out to the people now so that they know what to look for. So here's what's happened. Since our big, deep quake right here, let's get all the other earthquakes out of there and just look at this one. Well, we can leave this one in just as a point of reference. So when this happened, it came up on the underside of the plate, the force from this event. It was down in an area called the asthenosphere, which is just a term to describe the magma down below the plate. So a big disturbance in the magma down below the plate puts force up on the underside of the whole plate. Now I'm going to turn on something here. It's a shell feature that reaches out across the Pacific. And this just shows us, well, again, this is an earthquake 3D feature, but it really does help. And you can see that, of course, it encompasses the whole of the Pacific going right over to the border of our other ring. Now, the other ring spreads out from the 7 that just struck. So the areas around the Pacific are all being displaced. Imagine this like a bubble of pressure coming up from down below the plate. So a big bubble of pressure coming up. And here, let me look through the Earth this way. Okay, so you might be able to see it a little bit better now. So looking through the Earth this way, and we can even turn on the grid, just give us a better point of reference here to look through the planet. So down below this location is where I want you to imagine the pressure coming up like a giant dome of pressure. And when that dome of pressure comes up, it then spreads out and follows the plate boundaries and fractures in the plate. So it disturbed out to the east, and when it disturbed out to the east, we get ourselves the earthquakes striking across the areas that are disturbed. All right, and the earthquakes that spread across the areas that are disturbed are all of the same magnitude. Yesterday, going into today, nothing but 5 spreading out across all the plates. And the 5s was just the first inundation. I told you guys, like a tsunami. First the water pulls out, then the first wave comes in. And whatever it is, the next wave is even bigger. And the next wave that's going through now is going up into the mid-range 7 over on one side and 7.0 on the other, or 6.6. We'll see if they bring that up or down ultimately. So we have two sets of big quakes happening on both sides, one all the way on one side of, well, actually South America being perturbed right where the plate meets the Atlantic. So the whole portion of South America displaced, and all the signs were there that something was going on earlier today because we had an outbreak. See all these earthquakes marked in a white and a pink here along the coast of Central America and South America? That was the accumulation, and look where our arrows point, our two big arrows. Look where the clusters of earthquakes are. At the tip of one arrow, you follow this arrow out. Guys, look where it points. Just keep following the arrow out. It goes right to where our big earthquake is, just south of it, right along the mountain range here. So, Venezuela and the whole Caribbean has been displaced from an event half a world away on what we would call the antipode of the plate, the opposite side of the plate. So it's not the opposite side of the planet, it's the opposite side of the plate. In other words, you get pushed up on one side, you get pushed down on the other, or pushed over on the other. And that's exactly what's happening here now. So to see this spread out to the west means we have force spreading out to the west as well. So let's get a look at the last 48 hours worth of quakes. There we go. And looking at 48 hours, we have a giant open silent zone. Where? Papua New Guinea. Not just anywhere in Papua New Guinea. The direct center. Now look at this. Between this 6.9 and this 6.9. Okay, it's a 6.6 now, but between these two upper 6s, we have a fulcrum point, a middle point that is formed. Now, this was in the forecast on Sunday night. We told you each one of these middle points would get hit. So when we see an area that's surrounded by big-time pressure on all sides, and it hasn't been hit, this is being sandwiched together. Think of a vice grip. That's a good analogy here. Or think of a standing wave tank. Here's another way to look at it. The standing wave tank. Let's go look up the standing wave tank video. Standing wave tank. Boom, top video. Now watch this. First, an initial wave goes out from one point to the other, basically simulating an earthquake here. So, but they're going through water. So the wave, little ripples start to go out just from a push on one of the walls or both of the walls. And the wave will go across the tank. Takes a few seconds for it to reach one side to the other. This is just in a wave tank. Now, you put a similar push or a bigger push in, and the waves, of course, keep going and build into each other. Now, they don't interfere with each other in the way you'd think they would. There's an interferometry that happens here where the waves build on top of each other, and what happens here is as you add more waves into the tank, it builds in what's called amplitude. Now, many people understand amplifiers for sound. Same principle, that we're adding more power into the smaller tank. Well, in an amplifier, you're adding just more power into a wire, right? But or into a circuit board. But as you add more power, it causes the amplitude, the peaks of the waves, to increase. And it builds on top of each other into what's called a standing wave. Okay, so a standing wave happens, we get equal distribution of the wave heights, with the biggest in the middle. So the biggest is the middle point, they'll call that the crest, and at the bottom we have the valley. So it's the crest and the valley, and then, or the peak and the valley. We go down here to the bottom of the wave, and we go, here is the bottom of the wave right now. But it's empty. Again, it's silent, but it's going to flux and push up. And at the middle, we will see the fulcrum point, the top of the wave, the crest of the wave, the combined total of both waves on both sides, strike in the middle. That's just one example of a middle fulcrum point being hit. So we have time now to warn the people in Papua New Guinea, for instance, to let them know that they're sandwiched in between two upper sixes. Let's call them both 6.9s, because that's really what they are. Two sets of 6.9s on either side, and the biggest, deepest quake we've ever seen just 48 hours ago, just over 48 hours ago now, or right at 48 hours, right here. So the big open silent zone right here at the tip of the arrow in Papua New Guinea is one of our areas that we have to watch in the next few days. But it's not the only area. This area at Lombok, well, right behind Lombok, is the next island, and the earthquakes have spread over to the east. Now, I have a warning going on the back side of here, but the silent zone is really technically over East Timor at this point. This is East Timor right here. This is Lombok. I mean, they're right next to each other, but I mean, if we're going to be specific about a silent zone and a middle point, it would be right here. And then the second silent zone, of course, is right here in between these two sets of quakes, which has been on the warning list for the last week and a half. Now, this spot here, east of Rinjani and east of Bali, seems to be catching all the pressure. So if I have a warning going, I'm going to issue it for right here, and then, we hope that it doesn't strike over in the middle of the fulcrum point here, or here, that it would strike right back where we're expecting it to happen. Now, if you live, or we hope it doesn't hit at all, but if it's going to hit, then we hope it hits right where we're looking for so that people there can be ready. We have to tell everybody from East Timor over to Central Java that there's a potential of another earthquake, because they all felt it this past time. Java was shaken up, Bali was shaken up, of course the area at the location was shaken up at the epicenter, but going out in about 200 miles in each direction, which is 400 miles total across, felt the area hit. So when we're talking about 200 miles, I'm trying to get it within 200 miles of the epicenter. And that would be, I guess, 400 miles in each, total across the entire area. So, and that's the size of an area that can be affected by a large earthquake like this. A 7 can totally affect a 400 square mile area. Certainly can. Or linear mile, linear mile. All right, so where are we? One more time, let's recap. The largest earthquake in, years has struck in North Venezuela, right at the mouth of the Caribbean. It's traced back to where our biggest, deepest earthquake that we've ever seen struck just a couple days ago. And we told you 7 days to 10 days of a watch was going to be issued off this. We're 2 days in, and look what's happened. Boom, and going over to the west, boom. And it's spread out. 5s were the first wave on this. They already went across the whole planet. It went from 8s to 5s, 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 then down to 4s, and then down to 3s over here to the north, 3.3 and 3.7. All of our X's have been hit across. X marks the spot right on the money for each one of these. So it's a big compression event going on right now from down below the plate. Do not ignore it. Now, off the west coast of the United States, we got a near 5 or a mid-range upper 4, striking directly in our warned area. Last night, this was a topic of discussion. I showed this area and told you, look, it's a middle fulcrum point between Haida Gwaii and Vancouver, and we talked about the fires just to the east. So the earthquakes and the fires we talked about the lack of earthquakes, and we talked about the fires just to the east of the volcanoes. And we told you that this is the middle fulcrum point, and it's been weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks since it's been hit with anything like this. Now here it is. In day 1 of this event, we see the fulcrum points of each spot get filled in. Now that a new 4.6 is struck up here, you can certainly bet an increase in California. And California, guys, off the coast this week, we're looking for something up to 6, mid-range 6. That's right, mid-range 6 could happen. You shouldn't be shocked by mid-range 6s when the Caribbean is getting hit with a mid-range 7, and 7s or mid-range 6s are spreading out across the plate now. And we have our biggest, deepest earthquake that we've ever seen. So you shouldn't be shocked if you see an increase on the west coast. But it doesn't just stop on the northwest. It's absorbed by California and the plate and taken down to Southern California, where we have a giant open silent zone across the LA basin now. The area to the south is moving with major swarms. Let me show it to you. If you live in California, you guys get warning signs before you're hit with anything of any significant size. The warning signs are, 1, your dormant volcanoes begin to swarm with earthquakes. 2, your drill points, oil, gas, geothermal, start to swarm with the similar-sized earthquakes. Then the connecting fault zones between them start to light up with lines of quakes and diagonal lines following the fault zones. And then your nuclear test sites start to swarm. When all of, and yes, nuclear test sites right down in South Nevada, fracture points where humans have blasted in the ground. These spots all start to move simultaneously, okay? That lets you know California has absorbed a lot of force. Where's the force coming from? It's coming from up here, where we just got a 4.6. But geysers up here in Northern California is like a pressure gauge. The more activity that's at geysers, the more force that's coming in. The less activity that's at geysers, the more force that's building out here to be released to then come in and re-excite geysers. Well, geysers is going down, which means there's force building out here off the coast. The slow slip started to die out last night, and now it's released some of its energy on the northern tip, but that's just the tip of this. That's just a 4.6. Going across the rest of the edge of the plate, what you're going to see are lines of earthquakes going following what we call the North American craton edge. The craton is just the geologist's word for the interior portion of the plate, and I put the black arrows on here just to indicate which way force is coming in from the west coast. So this seismic force is pushing in from the west coast, going to the Midwest, and we have force coming up from the south with these big disturbances now happening down south at, well, actually, let me show it to you here. Oh, wait, I have to turn on a different feed. There was a 6.1 that struck here 4 days ago, right here at the Panama-Costa Rica border. So 7.3, 6.1, big disturbance down to the south pushes up on the edge of the craton from the south. Now, all of a sudden, instead of coming out of the Midwest, out of the fracking operations and oil pumping operations of Oklahoma, we've got a swarm coming up from the south. Mississippi has already been hit a couple days ago. Now here we are with this. So on the west coast, though, our stack, look at our huge stack of quakes. These are all microquakes, but they're all on the slow slip down at Anza Gap and now the San Andreas. Yes, the San Andreas has finally started to move after, well, weeks and weeks, or maybe even more months without any major motion. So now we're starting to see a little swarm breakout down here on the location next to Anza Gap. Now that matters. It really does. The diagonal line of quakes here goes all the way up into the split at South San Joaquin Valley. This is a geothermal pumping operation at a volcano called Cozo Junction. Now, they have it listed as Little Lake, California, and yes, there is a little lake nearby somewhere, but it's out in the middle of basically Death Valley type area. We'll show it to you here. Here we go. So they have it at Little Lake, but clearly we're on the bottom of Volcano Peak, right? I mean, you see the volcano, you see the lava flows go down, and now there's a geothermal pumping operation right here. These are all geothermal pumps. Well, let's see if it loads. You'll be able to see the turbines as soon as this thing loads. There we are. Turbines, pipelines. Pipelines go to drill points. Drill points go down into Kozo Volcanic Field. So Kozo Volcanic Field here. And the earthquake on the newest of the bunch, Volcano Peak. But there's others next to it. Look at these cinders next to it. This is older. You can tell they're older. Look at the color on the lava flow. Dark black versus covered in sand black. So these are older. This is the youngest. Little swarm breaking out there. Up to the north, Mammoth Mountain. This is another volcano and a geothermal pumping operation in Mono Lake on the north part of Long Valley Caldera, which is a supervolcano. Did you guys know they just announced this? That there's a supervolcano at the California-Nevada border, and they've confirmed it now. Long Valley, right here, and I'll click on this for the Smithsonian. They're going to need to change this. It's a supervolcano with 240 cubic miles of melt down below as of new Earth-penetrating tomography measurements released this past week or 2 weeks ago. So this is a supervolcano. They confirmed it. And Mono Lake next to it. Look, it's the same size. It's the same shape. They just haven't confirmed it yet. So we're swarming out right across here. And there's a geothermal turbine right in the middle of this whole hot mess where our earthquake is. So here again, here's Long Valley Caldera. And here is the geothermal turbine right here. Turbines, plural. And again, it's a spot where they've drilled into the upper reaches of the magma chamber to get that steam in excess to turn the turbines. So we get over here along the coast and we have another diagonal line of quakes. We have a 1.1 in Bay Area and a 1.6 and 0.5 to the south of Monterey Bay. East of Monterey Bay, the largest movement of the day, and north of Monterey Bay, basically the middle of this now. This is somewhat normal now for the San Andreas creeping section. The middle point will get hit with the largest amount of movement. Now that was kind of breaking its own rule, or the rule that we were following on this for many, many weeks, if not months. And it started to flare up going down to the south. Well, when it flared up down to the south, look what took it. So it buffeted up against here, and now the slow slip is breaking out along the edge of the plate. The plate is in major motion down here. Slow slip, well, it's a term used by professionals to describe when one or more plates starts passing side by side one another. So the slow slip is picking up in pace. Why? Why is the slow slip suddenly picking up in pace? Well, anybody who's been paying attention would know that the plate is in motion due to our big activity over here in the West Pacific. So looking at the United States, let's get our 7-day feed turned back on. We're looking up to the northwest, then we're looking down to LA. And today is Tuesday. We have till Sunday night. Actually, even beyond that, till Tuesday, basically. We still have another week. We have 8 more days to go in this watch for the whole Pacific. And when I say the whole Pacific, I mean it. Look for our silent zones. Here's another one right here. Silent zone, Baja California, Mexico. Middle point. Let's go further over to the west. Let's warn a few more areas. I mean, I'm going to be on after this, but when we look across Indonesia, for instance, this middle point here, seriously under stress. When we go up to the north, the middle point here, under serious stress. Central Philippines, along the coast. Another point where we're going to see a release. How big? Likely to go up into the 6 range. Maybe even upper 6. Look what's happening around the rest of these. If this is holding true and upper 6 is going to be the number we're going with, then it's going to be upper 6s going all the way up, and we're going to see a combined total then strike on the coast of Japan of all these upper 6s. And you take several upper 6s and you add them together, it starts equaling a 7. So is Japan going to get hit with a 7? Again, I'm in uncharted waters. I do not have examples to go on with this big, deep quake. So it is really a learning curve for me, and I want you guys to be ready. Silent zone in Japan, let's determine that one here so we can get the people in Japan on board here. Looking at 48 hours worth of quakes, there's only a few spots that need to be filled in. So it would look like the... Well, what is this? The Bonin Islands? Is this the Bonin Islands? The Ryukyu Islands. Ryukyu Islands. Okay. So south of Japan would be one spot I would look right here in the middle point between Taiwan and Philippines and South Japan. There's several eruptions happening at Sakurajima, which may be playing into this, which would then put our other spot up here to the north. Up here in North Japan, we would look between the coast of Honshu and all the way up where our 2 or 3 eruptions are happening at Ebako. So we would, again, need to ward North Japan and Kuril Islands. Look, I mean, this is so ad hoc right now. So I'm warning these middle fulcrum points, and if we're going with 6s, then it's going to be 6s. Now, if they combine into something larger, that's why I want you to have a larger earthquake plan by 1 magnitude. So if I warn you for a 5, I want you to be ready for a 6. And if I warn you for a 6, I want you to be ready for a 7, just in case. We are not playing around. This is not being done for social media name or anything like that. Self-promotion, whatever. You can even leave my name out of it. If you know people that live in Papua New Guinea, here's what you tell them. They are sandwiched in between 2 big sets of quakes, and we have the biggest, deepest quake pushing up underneath them to top it all off. And if you know somebody up in Japan, let them know. Big motion coming up from the south, look which way our arrows point. This is the way force flows along the plate boundaries. You're an accumulation point, where the combined total of everything coming from down here transfers up, across, and slams into your coast. So don't ignore it. And the whole country of Japan would need to be warned on this, because once we start dealing with the 7, everybody from Tokyo all the way up to Hokkaido feels it. Same with over to the west. We get into Indonesia. Look, everybody from East Timor all the way over to Central Java needs to be on watch. And it's not an exaggeration. They'll all feel it. It'll catch them off guard. They'll think it's the end of the world or that it's another huge earthquake, when really it's the one right in the middle. The people in the middle that need to be the ones that watch for the biggest movement. While everybody else goes, we don't want people to go into panic mode. Do not be scared at this point. Now we understand the basic motion is starting to take place, that these middle fulcrum points are going to be our spots to watch. So we go over to Europe, the same thing applies. We get over here, you see a big, giant, open, silent zone across China. For my viewers in China, Nepal, India, North India, now let's be specific about that. India goes all the way over to here, and then this is the main land of India. So it has a little border region that opens back up. The halfway fulcrum point between all this movement over in, North Afghanistan here, and over here in Sumatra, halfway point. Not as a crow flies as we go around the bend. Look, this puts everybody from eastern Nepal across India, going down into Myanmar. That's a spot to watch. And we also have another spot to watch. I mean, this keeps going and going and going. So every middle fulcrum point is going to get hit. Well, there's another middle fulcrum point. Between what? We're looking right here on the coast of Myanmar. But a fulcrum point between earthquakes that happened a few days back. This one, if we add this one in, the middle fulcrum point is here, and the other middle fulcrum point is right here. So, again, do I incorporate in the 4.8 from just over 48 hours ago? Or if I take it out, then this makes this the new fulcrum point. So that's why we need to warn all these people. It is shaking the whole planet. It is really, it's like, think of a lake full of ice, and there's fractures across those pieces of, the giant slab of ice that's broken. And then a giant wave comes in from underneath and starts to shake them all up at once. It normally wouldn't happen this way. It would normally be one sheet of ice pressing against the other and causing a chain reaction. But instead, we get a disturbance from down below, and we see it come up on all sides at once. It's a truly amazing thing to see happen right now. This is why I'm stressing this so hard for you guys to be ready. When we get over to Europe, you're not going to escape this either. Same with the United States. We're not going to be escaping the brunt on this over the next 8 days. 10-day watch, 2 days in, look what's going on. Not an exaggeration. Down in New Zealand, let me show you where we got a warning going for you. Now that you've gotten a 6.6 to 6.7 up to your north, this should be a wake-up call that you may be looking at a 6.6 to 6.7 down here off the coast. Oh wait, a new earthquake has just struck, hold on. A new 4-point-something just struck off the northern eastern coast of New Zealand. Hold on. As I'm talking about it, no way. Oh. Cue up the Twilight Zone music. 2236. Oh my gosh. A new 4.1 has just popped up here off the eastern coast of New Zealand. Look at that. So, again, this is going to be from GeoNet. It may be a larger earthquake or smaller, but just I was getting ready to show you. Okay, so this is the spot where we're watching for a release to happen, and it's the only spot to be hit in the last several hours with any significant sized earthquakes. Look, we look in the last 3 to 5 hours. Wow. Oh, wow. Okay, again, it's the power of the mind, right? No, that would just be a coincidence, guys. All right. So the earthquake just hit, but it's not nearly as big. We're going to look for something over the next few days. Like I said, we're 8-day watch still. And you need to watch, I would say, within the first several days. So if it's going over to the west right now with 6.6, we hope it comes in less in New Zealand. We really do. I've got a lot of viewers down there, and even a lot of people that don't like me. But I know they're all watching, and I want them to be ready too. I want everybody down there to be on the same page. Look, when you get a big disturbance like this up to your north, it kind of shouldn't be that shocking that New Zealand sees motion. When it first started, New Zealand saw motion. And this is no exaggeration either, that we saw a 6.0 ghost-quake be reported below New Zealand first, then the 8.0 showed up, then they deleted the ghost-quake below New Zealand. But then a 5.1 hit next to Christchurch, and they deleted that too. All these ghost-quakes. Well, why are there ghost-quakes? Well, there's mystery shaking that's being detected because it's so close. So it's detecting shaking as though there's an earthquake there. Nobody feels the actual shaking because it's the equipment that's being shaken. And why is the equipment being shaken? It's the plate boundary that's going into motion. So if the plate boundary goes into motion and the equipment's being shaken by a disturbance far away, it stands to reason that you could be shaken up for real as the plate boundary goes into motion. So now you get a new 4 down on the plate boundary. That's not a shock. You're hit because, of course, you would expect that. All right, so let's go up here across to the west-northwest and see what's going on across Europe. Anything else new? Other than Italy getting hit at our expected location, or just north of it, and a new swarm breaking out next to Campobasso, and a new swarm breaking out down south, down in Sicily. Gonna have to say, sudden swarming in Italy. Where did that come from? Anybody know? How about our deeper, anybody? Bueller? Down below the plate, there was a new series of deep earthquakes that now have perturbed Italy. Now, it's coming in less. That's good. That's really good. So, really, when you see it this way, and you see it spread out so quickly within the course of days, this is not something we normally see, guys. This is seismic go time. This is where the seismic guy gets actually excited. You know, my stone face actually breaks a sweat, and we are dealing with a situation that I want everyone to understand what they're dealing with. This is nothing to play around with. You would not ignore a giant storm coming your way if it was a hurricane or something. Why would you ignore a seismic storm coming your way? You see movement happening on both sides of the Pacific like this in the course of a few days, you know that it's connected. Now, the spots in between should also start to move. Even a kid could get this. You got one side that's moving, you got the other side that's moving, and the thing's a round plate that's connected to other plates. Don't you think they're all going to go into motion? And if they don't, we'd be very lucky. So I don't like relying on luck, quote-unquote, to, hope for that it goes away. It's like hoping that a hurricane goes away. Are you going to ignore it, though? You can hope it goes away, that's fine. But plan for it to come. And if it doesn't, we're lucky. Time now, 7 p.m. Central Time. We're going to save this as a video over on YouTube for people to get an update on the situation. And I certainly will be back on in 3 hours. Well, actually, more sooner than that. Let's continue this 1 hour update thing. It's 7 o'clock now. We'll give you guys a chance to share the live streams out to the world. Let everybody know what to look for in these different locations. Or if you just want to tell them to tune back in and I'll re-explain it all again. I'm going to be a talking fool tonight. Got my coffee, and I'm going to be up all night. I don't think we're done yet. We're going to keep going like this for the next 8 days, at least. I put a 7 to 10 day watch on it. This is 2 days in. 8 days to go. You need to be on watch. Let your friends, family, loved ones, co-workers know they need to have an earthquake plan. Look at the videos coming out of Venezuela. Okay, you need an earthquake plan for stuff like that. So if it hits, you take shelter or you go outside. But you saw what was outside that parking garage. You saw what's outside that parking garage. If you didn't see it, I'll take you back over and show you again. Let's go back over there. Let's go look. Maybe there's more video. Hey, there he is. Okay. Okay. Wow. Oh, man. I don't like seeing this. I don't like seeing this. That better be a stock photo or something. Buildings evacuated as Caracas is hit. Man, God. Look at this. Okay, we've got video coming out from the location. Man, God. Look at this. Okay, we've got video coming out from the location. That's not somebody shaking their hands, guys. That's actually earthquake. You can see the trees shaking. You can see the buildings going. I don't want to step on anybody's videos. You know, I just want to show you guys. We can go down here a little bit, and we'll just keep going. And we'll find that video. Look at this. Look inside. Look. Look on the ground. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. When an earthquake strikes, if you have latches on a cabinet. Latches on a cabinet make all the difference in the world for stopping things from flying out of those cabinets. And you'll save yourself such a headache. Oh, wow, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Steel rebar reinforced concrete. Stack and pack block housing, of course. But look at our bricks. This is a perfect example. Hopefully you guys can all see this. Right here. I've talked about this before. Now, stone's not supposed to be moving, all right? Just put it simply. Brick, stack, any kind of stone stack is not supposed to be moving. Start shaking, you get yourself a problem. And now look where the cracks formed. Starting at the edge and going up through the center. Starting at the edge, going down. Now, what'll happen is, all this is still mortared together. And this whole slab here can fall off, connected. All those bricks, all at once, all falling down. Instead of just one brick. That's just one example. This is a brick exterior to a concrete stack, just in case you guys don't know. Okay, let's keep going down. Let's look at more of these. Inside the stores, of course, if you're inside, see these fluorescent lights. Fluorescent lights can be jostled out at a moment's notice, and when they fall, they break. They have powder in them. They break into tiny shards, and they, not only that, when a fluorescent light bulb explodes or it hits something, it actually explodes. The glass actually shoots out and flies out. It doesn't just break. Here's a shot. Okay, that's a car crushed on the outside of a parking garage. And here's a video. Here we go. Here's the video. This is outside the parking garage. Now look, the building, they'll pan up to it in a second. Now watch this. When they pan up to the building, you'll see the building still intact. So, in other words, you probably could have stayed inside, and if you go running outside, you're going to run into this. And you're going to be playing dodgeball with bricks falling from 100 feet at terminal velocity, whereas inside, you might have just gotten some rubble or a grit falling on you from the crumbling of the concrete along seams and so forth. Reinforced concrete. If the pylons are driven deep enough and they're stable enough and they're steel beam, you're not going to get a collapse unless it's a mega quake in the 9.0 range or greater. It usually, unless there's liquefaction or something. You know, there's outside mitigating factors, of course, that can play into this. Now, here's a good thing right here. I like to see this. When people are outside and they've taken to a spot that's appropriate, far away from buildings, out in a square. Look, they've got their cell phones. They're in groups. They've congregated. Now, I'm not seeing too many emergency kits. Excuse me. I'm not seeing too many emergency kits. But this is a perfect time, a perfect example for you guys to have your emergency kits. You can put in basic stuff. You've got most of the stuff already around your house. Let me just give you some examples. Change of clothes, set of shoes, set of socks. Right? You already got it. Put it in a bag. Same with the flashlight and batteries. Likely you do have it, and if you don't, you should. So, put that into the emergency kit. Now, these little, and if you have any medicines that you require, any kind of medications, put that in as well. Look at what's happened here. So, you know, when this happens, it's just a few moments, and you have to be on go time. You have to be ready to go at a moment's notice. And that's where, again, I come in to tell you, for the people who are listening, it'd be prudent for you to develop a plan and an emergency kit. The emergency kit can be used also for other disasters or emergencies, like you lose power or severe weather's coming in. Okay, well, at least you have a few of those things that you need in a bag that you can grab. Just basic stuff. So do not be scared. Now let me explain something to you guys before we get ready to go here. This is crucial for you guys to understand why earthquakes are not random. The standing wave that I brought up. The standing waves form between these points. So we get a standing wave forming between these two sets of sixes. And at the standing wave pinnacle point is where the biggest combined total of the force that's been introduced on both sides adds up. So earthquakes are not random. They are related to one another as they come up and travel out across the plates. Secondly, the earthquakes are following the plate boundaries and craton edges. So they're not random in any way. They are following an avenue or avenues. So we know the origin point of the force, and we know the avenues by which they're taking, and we know the termination points. We have them marked with X's, and every single X mark has now been hit. So with every X mark hit and every avenue full, we have a traffic jam of pressure coming from our big disturbance over here in the West Pacific. It flows across the plates. This force flows across the underside of the plates and drops off earthquakes along the way, like fingerprints back to the ultimate source, or like the footprints in the sand of the invisible man that you can't see. We can't see the seismic force, but we can see its fingerprints. We can see what it's dropping off along the way as it's traveling from region to region. Now that you got your head around all that, it should remove a lot of the mystery of earthquakes and replace it with vigilance. You can watch it come your way like watching a storm blowing across the Pacific, following the tracks of the plate boundaries. Over in our direction in the United States, Central America, South America, we catch all our pressure from over here. So if you want to know what's going to happen in North America, Central America, South America, seismically speaking, you have to look over here and look within a week. It usually takes approximately 7 days, sometimes a few days longer, sometimes a few days shorter, usually 7 days or about, the force to travel around the planet and come back out the other side and start the cycle over again, since it's a tidal flow-like cycle. And speaking of tidal flows, Moon is at its furthest distance tonight. So Moon, look down at the bottom of the screen down here. It says 73% and D 97%. When that reaches D 100, that's the distance. So the Moon is at its furthest distance right now, and we're getting ready to go into a full moon in the next few days. So in the next several days, this 73% will go up to 100%. That'll be a full moon. So full moon, full distance, August 22nd, 2018, International Time, just after 00:07 UTC, or 7:09 p.m. Central Time on the 21st. We're going to go ahead and sign off now. I'll be back in an hour. We'll do it at 8 o'clock, so 50 minutes, 50 minutes. You have a chance to go take a quick break, share the information for all the people who need to get it, let them know I'm covering this on the stream, non-stop. You can watch for free. Not going to push myself or self-promote or subscribe to my channel or all that stuff. No. Just get the warnings out however you have to do it. And we'll be back on to recover this over and over and over and over and over again for the next several hours and going into tomorrow to see if anything else goes down. Okay? And of course, it's going to carry on for the next 8 days. So I'm going to be around nonstop. I'm going to be your best friend or your worst enemy for the next 8 days. Or if you're indifferent, you'll just hear me for the next 8 days every once in a while. Peace out, guys. And one more time, don't be scared. This is go time. This is what we've been preparing for years. So here we are. You guys are great. You've done your part. We've already averted injuries. Over in Indonesia, people were here in chat when the earthquake struck that we warned for. They were in chat already. I noticed somebody made a video saying that I was taking credit, saying that, it didn't happen. There were people in chat. I'll testify under a court of law. We'll go to court. Let's go. I'll see you guys later. Much love. Hello, everybody. It is 5:31 p.m. Central Time on the 21st of August, 2018. It is Tuesday here in the United States, Wednesday internationally, and let me welcome you into the Earthquake 3D live stream. In case you're not aware of what's going on, we've got some breaking news out of the Caribbean. The largest earthquake in years striking right on the shores of Venezuela, going into the Leeward Islands, South Caribbean. And there was a preliminary tsunami warning that was generated for a 300-kilometer radius around the location. I think that has now been lifted. We're going to turn on a display capture so you can come along with me, and we'll just go look all this information up. This is the largest earthquake in years, and it can be traced directly back through where our 6.1 struck, and we trace that back all the way to where our largest earthquake, deepest earthquake we've seen ever, struck 2 days ago. So first, this big, deep quake happened, put pressure up on the underside of the plate. Pressure came out and went up here to the north and struck at the American Samoa region with a 5.1, indicating that force was coming across right where Leviathan is, the force from the deep coming up from the abyss. And then it comes over, the force does, and hits South America like a wall. And I talked about this last night, that the volcanoes up here were lighting up, and that there was an increase in seismic activity today. Look at the white-colored earthquakes. These all struck before this big earthquake, 7.3, over in Venezuela. All this activity kicked up across Central America and South America first. Now, that force is traced back to the big, deep earthquake that struck over here. Now, let's go look up and see what the tsunami situation is. Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, PTWC. You guys can search that in any search engine. It should bring this up, and click on Caribbean. And what you'll see is they had this localized threat warning. Okay, now they said there is no tsunami threat now, which is good. That's good news. So we can go ahead and get that, scratch that off the list. That's good. Now we just have damage from the earthquake itself to deal with on land. So no tsunami means that the people up to the north most likely felt heavy shaking, though. That would be the southern leewards going up towards Barbados and as far south into, let's say, Brazil, and going southwest all the way into Colombia. Most people probably felt this earthquake. And again, where did this earthquake come from? It's the largest in years. Why are we seeing the largest earthquake in years suddenly strike over here? Well, we just trace it back to the largest, deepest quake we've ever seen from 2 days ago, right here. So this gets pushed all the way across, and it goes that way over to the east. It's also going over to the west. So if you live over to the west, look, this should be like a warning sign to you that for the next 8 days, we have a 10-day watch going from the point of this big, deep quake. 10-day watch. Now, we're 2 days in, and we saw a spread of 5s go all the way over to Europe, and we see a new 7-point-something pop up over in the Eastern Caribbean, the largest in years. This is definitely connected. Both sides of the plate are in motion now. So what happened originally was the shock wave, and this is not a physical shock wave, this is a progression of earthquakes. The seismic force that came up through this caused a disturbance at the location itself. That's a given at the epicenter. But then the seismic force spread out across and dropped off equal distantly spaced earthquakes all the way along the way, going up towards Japan and all the way over into the Indian Ocean and South Europe. Now, Europe moved today. North Italy got hit. Mid-range 4-point-something struck at Italy, and all of our X's have been hit. X marks the spot at Iceland with a near 4. Mid-range 3 striking at the Azores, X marks the spot. X marks the spot, 4.9, 5.0 last night, and X marks the spot down at the South Sandwich Islands, 5.0, again, a day ago. So all the points have been hit except for this one, and this one right next to it, the biggest in years. So we'll consider that a hit as well. All the X's have been hit, and this is on really 48 hours in on this big guy. And we have 8 more days to go. So what do you think is going to happen? Now that it's spread out and caused 7s, we are in uncharted waters. I told you to start off the forecast for this week. If you guys don't know this, I do forecasts, global earthquake forecast, every Sunday night. So 2 days ago, I did my global earthquake forecast for the week, and it incorporated this into it. And we told you, everywhere where we normally see 4s or 5s, we're going to see 6s. And where we normally see 6s, we're going to see 7s. So if we have 6s, those 6s are going to go up to 7s. Now the 6s have gone up to 7s. That's exactly what just happened. So previously, there was a 6.1 a few days back. right at the border of Panama and Costa Rica. Now over to the east, we go into Venezuela, and there it is. I mean, come on, what more do you need? So the 1 magnitude increase has already taken place, and we're 2 days in on an 8-day watch, meaning that the other locations need to watch also. I may be lowballing it on Lombok. I told them to watch for a 6.5, but we're going 1 magnitude up, so I want you to have a 1 magnitude larger plan just in case. So it's already obvious the magnitudes are increasing, even in Lombok. So at Lombok, it's going up. The magnitudes have spread across all the way from Sumatra through Philippines. Philippines was a warned area, has now been struck. In case you didn't know, we issued a warning for right here, and now it's been hit. It's the only spot to get hit. Now, over to the west, Africa has even been pushed on a 5.0 basis, right next to Mayotte Island, and in the Democratic Republic of Congo, also moving. But like I said, this is big-time activity for Central America, and it's something that you could be prepared for if you knew to look for it. So how would you know to look for this? Well, you had to know to look over here. If you live along the craton edges and the plate boundaries, I told you guys, we're seeing the whole planet-wide disturbance. It's not just going to affect one location, or 2 locations, or 3. It's going to affect all locations, and already has. There's only a few that need to be filled in, and that would be down here at New Zealand. We would see a 6.7 off the North Island to the east side of the central North Island, and up here to the north, we would see a larger release. If it's going to hold true over to the west like it's held true over to the east. So if it continues to spread over to the west, we're going to see a several magnitude increase in the next several days. Now, I hope for the best. Always. Hope for the best. But plan for the worst. So the plan for the worst is that this big, deep 8.2 can cause a shallow 9.3. That's the worst case scenario. But I don't think the worst case scenario is playing out. I think the scenario 2 that I proposed on Sunday night is playing out, which is that it would be a planet-wide disturbance and we'd see a magnitude increase across the board everywhere. Everywhere. Even in places where we don't have any earthquakes currently. Like, for instance, a new 4-point-something, upper 4, has popped up here right in the middle of our warned area. Now, we were looking for a 6, and instead a 5 pops up. And this is, again, on day 2 of the 8-day watch. So is it going to increase? I hope it doesn't, but it already is over here. So is it going to increase elsewhere? We have to wait to see. That's why the people in Indonesia, the people in Japan, the people over in the Mideast and Asia, look, if you see an arrow and it's pointing in this direction away, you need to watch. And I live on one of those arrows, so I'm incorporating myself into this. We've seen a new swarm breakout here in the United States today. Let me show it to you, actually. Here, let's show it to you. Here's the last 24 hours of 0.0 and greater quakes. So you're going to see a swarm of microquakes at the New Madrid seismic zone. So where did that come from? Well, we're getting a big disturbance down to our south, 6s and 7s now across the Caribbean. So it's pushing on the southern edge of the North American craton. Take a look at the diagram here. The craton diagram, I've had this out for years, and the craton diagram shows it. So the New Madrid seismic zone butts up against the southern deformed edge of the craton, which goes right down into the Caribbean, which then meets up with the southern plate that just goes south of the Cayman Trench. So Cayman Trench is right here, south of Cuba. Here's Jamaica, here's Cuba, here's Jamaica, here's Cayman Trench, and we just got pushed on the southern edge of the plate. So the plate to the north is going to start to shift. And there's been building stresses, guys. Again, there was already a 6.1 down here at Costa Rica, Panama border, which is somewhat rare in its own right. Okay, so let's jump back in on this. Let's turn off the craton graphic and go look on the west coast. Look at the swarm in Southern California, man. It is up off the roof. It is through the screen. We can't even get it all there on the screen, even if I zoom it in close. So even if I zoom it in super close, which normally brings everything down to the earth, we can still see we're dealing with hundreds of small events now developing swarming in Southern California, right at the Anza Gap slow slip location. But there's a new development here, San Andreas. San Andreas, guys. Now it's not Big Bear. Now it's not just San Jacinto. We are swarming on San Andreas. And a line of quakes going along the San Andreas now, going up east of LA, and a new swarm up here at Devil's Kitchen, the geyser field where they've drilled in at Cozo Volcanic Field to get the steam. Nuclear test sites are starting to swarm. Mammoth Mountain is starting to swarm. Area in between Lake Tahoe and Mammoth Mountain is starting to swarm, which is not a volcano, or at least I don't have a place mark for it. The creeping section of the San Andreas is also starting to move south of San Francisco, even or east of Monterey Bay, and then Geysers is starting to go quiet. While all this is starting to move, Geysers is going down. Well, Geysers going down means this is going up, out here out to sea. And look what we just got, a near 5 out to sea. So I told you guys, when the slow slip starts to stop, then we see a release out to sea. I told you that yesterday, right? Well, what's here today? There it is. So, not only that, look at our progression of small quakes across the edge of the craton. One more time, look at the craton diagram. And compare to the earthquakes. Yellowstone going down to the east. Now, guys, of all the times for the mainstream media to come in and do something really stupid, and of all the time for the USGS to come out and issue some stupid, dumb statements, they came out today and issued a statement saying that there's a threat for a 7.0 earthquake at Yellowstone. The director of the park at Yellowstone saying that madness. Now, here, it could happen. There could be a 7.0 earthquake that strikes at Yellowstone. There's one that struck in 1959. 7.3 or 7.5 or something struck up here next to Yellowstone in the late 1950s. Now, why did that happen? Well, there's pressure that transfers across the edge of the craton. Again, one more time. Craton edge goes right down across. Look at the brownish orange color versus purple. Look where it goes. It goes right up across Yellowstone. And that's no coincidence. The edge of the craton is a weaker point where the broken, deformed edge meets the more rigid, harder edge of the interior portion of the plate. So anyways, they came out today, issued some news stories saying that there's going to be a 7.0 the threat is not for an eruption, but for a 7.0 earthquake. They didn't put a time frame on it, of course. And that now, I traced the craton edge back up here to where we did just see the largest earthquake in state history in northern Alaska. So 6-point-something struck right up in the Arctic Circle, and it's the biggest one ever up here at this spot. But that's also an oil drilling location, the northern slopes of Alaska, where they have big-time pumping going on up there. So that's all going on right now. Progressions of quakes across the plates, an increase at the San Andreas, swarms going across California, and a rebuilding off the coast, obviously. Over West Pacific, this is where we're at a major, major warning time, where the people in Japan, the people in Papua New Guinea, people in Solomon Islands, people in Indonesia, all of Indonesia, all of Solomon Islands, all of Papua New Guinea, all of Philippines, all of Japan. Look, you can go ahead and ignore the big disturbance that's happening here, right? Oh, new earthquake has just happened. Hold on. A new 6.7 has just struck. A new 6.7 to 7.0 earthquake has just struck next to our deep earthquake location, guys. This is in the mouth of the Solomon Islands, north of New Caledonia. A new 7.0 earthquake, 6.7 plus 6.0, 5.9 has just struck within the last 2 minutes. So here we go. We're going through it. It's coming up. It's coming up now. On one side of the plate, we've got a 7.3. On the other side of the plate, we've got a 7.0, 6.7. We'll see if they bring that up or down. This is following our other movement spreading out. We are now going up the next magnitude. We're graduating up out of 5s going to 6s, just as expected. Now, actually 7s. So we're going up out of 5s going to 7s, or upper 6s. And this is a big deal. This is now a big deal. Let's go check and see what's going on here. I hope you guys are sharing the information and getting this out to everybody. I haven't had a chance to check to see even if I've got any viewers on these streams or not. They could have shut me off for all I know. Look, there is a tsunami something going on here. We do have a tsunami alert. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Wait for this to load. Tsunami.gov down. Oh my God. Okay. Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. Okay, we got a new earthquake. Information statement. Vanuatu. Okay. 2240. Text alert. An earthquake has occurred. Preliminary parameters. 6.7 moment. Okay, yeah, that'll probably go up. Based on all available data, a destructive Pacific-wide tsunami is not expected, and there is no tsunami threat to Hawaii. Okay, good news. That's good. Now, again, when you get upper 6s, lower 7s, they're usually not big enough to cause Pacific-wide waves, but they are big enough to cause landslides out to sea, which then can cause localized tsunamis. So I would say that there probably is a local threat in a few hundred-kilometer radius. We have to let the people there know now. This is spreading out over to the west. It's going over towards Indonesia. It just struck. On top of this one, it just hit live. So here we go. We've got ourselves a spread of earthquakes occurring live before your eyes in the past hour on both sides of the plate, spreading out from our biggest, deepest earthquake we've ever seen. We are in uncharted waters, but they are familiar territory. So here we go. Deep earthquake causes movement across the planet, and instead of a single larger earthquake next to it, it's causing a planet-wide disturbance of a magnitude increase across the board. Everywhere where there are 5s, there are now 6s. Everywhere there's 6s, there are now 7s, and we can certainly expect an increase. Everywhere where there was nothing, there are now 5s, for instance. So, in other words, every middle point, every fulcrum point in between current quakes is currently coming under pressure, like a scale with too much weight on both sides of the arms. And the center fulcrum point then comes under pressure, and tremendous weight accumulates at the center point, where the accumulation of pressure builds between current moving points. I know that sounds complex, but let me just put it this way. One side moves, the other side moves, and the middle comes under stress. And the middle point being the spot between quakes. So get the warnings out now. A new 6.7 has just struck, could go up. Let's go check and see what the USGS has for magnitudes on this now. Let's go to the origin page. They don't have magnitudes listed yet. Okay, we'll have to wait and see what magnitudes are for this. Again, this is preliminary. This is a 6.7, 6 point something. 8, the 7.0, I don't know. We'll have to wait to see. It probably is. If this one's a 7, most likely this one's 6.9, 7.0. Watch them bring it in at 6.9. If they do, I'll just call it a 7 anyways. So we've got ourselves a 7 on one side and a 7 on the other, within a hair of a point of 0.3 from a 7. Guys, this is a huge deal. And this is just now taking place. So we're on day 2 of an 8-day watch, and we're at 2 different 7s spreading out from our huge fracture. Think of this like a fracture in a windshield of a car, and it spreads out in all directions, but there's already cracks in the windshield for the force to follow. So here we are. If you're in Venezuela, a large earthquake has struck. There was a tsunami warning issued for a little bit there. They just canceled it. Over here, we don't have a tsunami warning. It's too small of an earthquake, but there could be landslides undersea that do cause localized waves. So I want locals there who are tuned in, and I know there are locals in Vanuatu that are tuned in. They've been here in chat, at least over on YouTube. So, you guys, you know what to look for. There's no excuse now. We warned 2 days ago, and now it's happening now. It's an unprecedented event, what's going on, and I didn't know what to look for. Again, we have to just base this upon other deep earthquakes. So if this is going to behave like other deep earthquakes, it's going to come out, spread out, and cause new activity that's significant. And yeah, you can bet that's happening. It's on a global scale, though. It's not just right next to the deep quake. So it's not like a deep 4. We're not just dealing with a deep 4 here, not just next to the deep quake. We're talking next to the deep quake means the other side of the planet for this 8. Does that make sense? So if a normal 4 is a small lizard, then this one would be Godzilla, right? Okay. And I'm not trying to be jovial about that. I'm just trying to put it in size perspective. This would be the biggest we've ever seen. And now the biggest movement, I think, the biggest compensation I think we've ever seen is taking place now, which is, again, this is something that I'm surprised the mainstream media is not all over it at this point. Because, again, we got to get the word out to billions of people. So, I mean, you know, for mainstream media, normally they're all over the ratings. You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't you want to reach billions of people with a message right now? So get the warnings out. You're going to have to do it on Twitch. If you have to, type it out by hand. And now here's what you tell the people. We have the biggest, deepest earthquake down below the West Pacific we've ever seen. It's putting pressure up on the underside of the whole plate, which means the whole plate is going into motion over the next 10 days from the point of the deep earthquake. So we're 2 days in on a 10-day watch. We have 8 more days to go. Now, the middle points, the spots between quakes, get sandwiched together. That's another good descriptive of this. That it gets sandwiched together, and the middle point between quakes builds up pressure. So this is just one example of many. We have many middle points. There's so much going on now. Again, the whole planet has been perturbed along the plate boundaries. The plate boundaries, we have arrows over so you can see which way the force flows. So we're going out from this point And we're going all the way up and around this way, out towards Europe and the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, and we're going out from this point. We're going up past Japan, around and down into the United States. I live in one of these areas where we're having a swarm. I've got my earthquake plans dusted off. I hope you guys do too, and it would be a rare occurrence for my neck of the woods to get a noteworthy earthquake, but I wouldn't rule it out at this point with what's going on around the rest of the planet. That every single seismic zone that's connected to a plate boundary or a craton edge is going to go into motion, or currently is in motion now, thanks to the big jostle we had down below the whole planet. Again, this reverberated through the whole planet. It buried all the needles on all the stations around the planet for a day. Think about that. Now that's amazing in its own right. So, and you guys could go check the GSN and the global heliplots. They were all blacked out. Now, and that wasn't censorship. That was blackout from complete inundation of seismic wave. Amazing stuff that's happening right now. Again, we're in uncharted waters, but the waters look familiar. So we can see that now there's a spread out of activity. It's significant. It's spreading over towards Indonesia and Japan, certainly. It's heading your way. It's come up. It's heading your way. It's going around the planet. It might go around the planet again and even come back through and cause a third round that's even bigger than what we're dealing with now. That could happen. We still have 8 days to go. Oh boy. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to keep doing updates. So we're going to wait another 30 minutes. I'm going to give you guys a chance to share the live stream links, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on Twitch. And you can share the video that's over on YouTube now. So the video on YouTube still stands, but I'm going to go ahead and save this now so people can see it. Everybody needs to see what just happened. The earthquake struck in the Caribbean. Now we're seeing an earthquake strike on the opposite side of the plate. Dual large earthquakes in just a few hours' time, not even an hour and a half time. This is a sign of serious unrest around the planet. You don't ignore it. Anybody who ignores it is just being foolish, right? They just put their fingers in their ears and they don't want to hear what's going on. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be on here nonstop. Expect me back here at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. That'll be 37 minutes from now. Please share the live streams. We'll do a full nother update on this, run down all the earthquakes for everybody. We're going to be going all night. I've got some coffee brewing, and we might not be done yet. There may be others that are taking place, okay? So word up, guys. Much love.
Welcome back, soul family, and welcome if you're new to the channel. Thank you guys for all your love and support. Welcome back, soul family. Welcome if you're new to the channel. This is a quick twin flame message. I figured I would share this because my twin and I are in communication verbally, so I'm able to confirm, we're both able to confirm what we experience. So hopefully this will help other people that are going through the twin flame awakening process or merging with their twin flame energetically, the ones that are true twins. So the ones that are dividing people right now, those aren't true twins. I'm just going to tell you. True twins create unity consciousness, especially through this ascension process, through through this awakening. There are people that are very angry that I am not sharing certain information or I haven't shared the event information completely. Right after I said that, I was getting attacked by someone individually, so you can see the projections of people based off of their own triggers. If there's malice or ill intent, personal attacks, that's division, that's not unity consciousness. That's not what we came here as twin flames to do. We didn't come here to attack other people because we're angry that our ship didn't come pick us up. So you have to decide where these projections come from. You have to feel those energies. I can feel it right away. I can see it right away. That's something that we all have the ability to tune into. I think some people question things. Some will be led directly to the information. So if you're feeling something, you'll be directly led to where that's coming from. And that's through your guidance, that's through the higher self. So if you're a twin flame, you could be dealing with interference from different people that's trying to shift your vibration because your union is very close. Especially if you're feeling yourself merging with your twin, with the chakras and vibrationally. There are people that will be projecting things at you, and they may not even be aware that they're doing it because it's happening at such an unconscious level. They don't understand why they're triggered for some people. And this can be even family, friends, co-workers. If you're in a relationship, most definitely. If it's not with your twin, most definitely. There's constant projections happening, mirroring happening, and it creates an imbalance. And then if you feed into the reactive energy, into the emotions, and feel that and allow it to take over, just know that you feeding into that reactive energy, because all energy is reactive, feeding into that, there's something feeding off of you. So anybody that's projecting because they're triggered, there's something feeding off of them through that triggered moment, that triggered emotions. Especially if they're attacking others, like really attacking others, they have something feeding off that energy. And then if you react towards the energy and you allow those emotions to affect your vibration, there's something there feeding off of that as well. So staying balanced through everything is so important. Not feeding in to those projections, those attacks, those energies, because that's giving your power away. So twins build one another up. Twins unite. Unity consciousness. They live from the heart chakra. Some of you are feeling a lot of activity in the heart chakra right now. You could be feeling a lot coming from the pelvis, the base of the pelvis, the base of the spine, all the way up to the crown chakra. Tingling in the hands and feet, heat in the body, tingling throughout the body. You can feel physical displacement. You can feel as if you're hovering over your body, like you're in a lucid dream or feeling disconnected. You can feel left eye twitching, which is the pineal gland, connected to the pineal gland. I'm pretty sure that's what I channeled. You can look that up. I'm sure there's something connected to that. Or if someone knows specifically connected to that, that's what I've channeled as far as the left eye and twitching, and then what's happening with the autonomic system and the chakras and the activations as far as twin flames go. So there's a lot of merging happening astrally. So you may be seeing and experiencing your twin astrally or through vision, like your third eye, seeing them. Could even be awake when this is happening, having like visions, almost as if they're ideas or memories or thoughts. Your twin is feeling the same thing. Your true twin is feeling the same exact thing that you are in that moment. So if you're feeling certain emotions, they're picking up on that too. If you're feeling this love for them, unconditional love and longing for them, they're feeling that too. If you're feeling chakra activity, they are. If you're feeling the bursts of kundalini waves of energy, they're feeling that too. There's a lot that's taking place behind the scenes right now. There's a lot of twins that are coming into union after August. So this is all like preparation right now. I know people want to rush this. They want to connect with their twin. Some want to know who their twin is. They're still going through this process of trying to figure that out. Your twin will be brought to you. You and your twin will come together. Your true twin will come together. Things will unfold exactly as they're meant to, and it may seem very magical for a group of you the way it actually unfolds. So you may be expecting it one way, and it turns out to be unfolding in a completely different way, which is the beauty of the connection. A lot's happening in dream state right now as far as merging energetically. And every time you're merging energetically, it's forcing things to be transmuted. It's forcing things to come up and be purged. So you can have emotions that come up, you can have thoughts that come up, triggers, things like that come up while you're having this activity and energetic linking with your twin. And this is just prior to physical union for many, because this is that transmutation that's taking place. So when you're coming into union, you're not doing that running and chasing dance that some of you have already done or you've been doing. And you'll know where you're at on your own twin flame journey based off of how you feel. There's also... So the event is already playing out. Basically, we've already been going through these triggers, which truly began in eclipse season. So the last 3 eclipses really triggered the energy to shift in this direction. And what's happening now is there are certain points that are located on this planet, on the physical solid surface, which are energetic points, and they're being triggered through a reactive response of energy. So energy happening in one location is triggering another location, and this is creating a domino effect. And then this is when we know that there's a specific amount of days before the event takes place. And this is something that's reacting right now, so depending on how things play out in the next 10 days or so, 10 to 15 days, depending on the energy that comes in with these events and how it's triggering other locations to go off right now, then we'll know exactly when. So they could be spread out in between, or they could be like one sets off the other, and then boom, at that point there's a certain amount of days and the event comes. And I'll share more on that. I'm not going to be bullied into sharing. I'm not going to feel like I need to prove myself because someone is attacking me personally because I said I wasn't going to share that information. And especially someone who was like watching my channel, openly mentioning my name several times in the past. So that's something that I've noticed. People are very quick to turn and like show their true colors if they're triggered, or show whatever's within them that's being triggered, not necessarily their true colors, because the true color is usually love. So not necessarily meaning that anybody that attacks is evil or intentionally trying to hurt you. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Some of them are, yeah. Some of them are definitely trying to personally attack you, but it's coming from a trigger within them. Because someone who's not triggered won't be attacking other people because they'll be balanced and they won't feel like they need to attack anybody. So that's where you can see it's really easy, it's really simple. What was I gonna say? Twin flames will be dealing with this in different ways, so you'll notice right before your union that there'll be some issues, people will be used in order to attack you, to shift your vibration. Some will be used as vessels and not even know it. Could be family, could be friends, could be coworkers, could be other people in this community, could be people that you don't even really know and just come into your life for some reason. And that's just trying to throw you off vibrationally. That's all it is. Anybody that tries to attack you to send you into a place of hurt or a place of questioning yourself, that is an attack on your vibration. That's trying to keep you in that lower vibration because you're going beyond a certain point. So twin flames that are coming into union, some of you are picking up on these psychic attacks that you're having. And if you stay in your vibration, stay in alignment as much as you can, just watch how things play out. It's not going to go in the favor of the ones that are attacking. So pay attention to how things play out. And I promise you on everything that this is playing out in the way of how you treat other people. So if you're attacking people right now, things are going to come out. This is why things are playing out in the world stage, things that people have done. You're going to watch this play out in the music industry, media, all different like private companies, larger companies. Everything's coming up. People that are attacking others right now, they'll have to deal with the consequences of that energetically. That's why it's important to stay in alignment right now. Don't get reactive. Don't attack another person because you're reactive off of what they've done to you, if that makes sense. Try not to feed into that, because know that there's something feeding off you when you feed off of that, and you're not living that vibration of the heart, and then you're screwing up your daily experience and you're not feeling good because you're not staying in that vibration of the heart. Some people are really mad right now. They really want to leave. They're mad. They don't like being here. And they're triggered by that. And then there are some people that are at a job that they absolutely hate, and they see you at a job that you love, and that triggers them. Or say you're in a relationship with your twin or your soulmate, and you have this beautiful connection, and there's someone that's in a connection with someone that they're not in love with, and they're desiring to be with their true soulmate or their true twin, but they feel stuck and trapped, then that could trigger them. And you may not even realize it, and they could be projecting those emotions and thoughts at you very subtly, you picking up on that because it's a trigger. Everything's trigger, and everything's reactive, so energy is always reactive. Knowing your environment is important. This is why people are leaving jobs right now. They're leaving locations that they lived in. They're leaving relationships. They're leaving friendships. They're distancing themselves from family that they've been connected with. And connecting with people that are building them up. People that are creating the unity where there was division, and not trying to teach division, or not trying to create more division. So you use your discernment when it comes to connecting with certain energies in your life, personally, and especially when it comes to your day-to-day experience, what you're feeding your energy to, what you're tuning into. If you are resonating with a certain vibration of a certain person or a certain circumstance, situation, you're staying in that realm of existence. that vibration of thought. And if that vibration of thought is attacking another person, you're feeding into that reactive energy, and then you experience that energy yourself. So it's your resonance that's pulling you into that experience if you're reacting to it, if you're allowing it to trigger you in that way. And then you're resonating at that. So if you're feeding into it, just know that there's something feeding off of you. If you can visualize something feeding off of you when you react to someone else being triggered and attacking you, that will help you to stay balanced and say, no, I'm not going to give my power away to this person or this thing or this being, this entity. I'm not going to allow someone to affect my vibration when I've been working so hard on myself. I'm not going to feel like I need to change anything about myself or I need to prove anything to myself because of someone else's attack. So, especially if you're dealing with like this in your day-to-day life with people that you know, like your family, your friends, your work environment, a soulmate, whatever it is. Some of you are dealing with a twin's karmic, and that twin is doing this to you. They're attacking you. They're projecting things at you because you're starting to step into your power. So they're triggered by you. Or you're feeling balanced in your life and they're triggered by that. Or you're teaching something and they don't understand it, so they're triggered by that. Or it doesn't agree with what they want to experience, so they're triggered by that. Like basically teaching the twin flame thing, and a karmic is triggered because they don't want to experience what you're teaching. They don't want to experience you in union with your twin, because that doesn't go with what they want to experience in their own life, in their own reality. So then they'll be triggered, and they'll react and project energy at you. As far as activations go,
Hello everybody. It is 8:02 p.m. Central Time on the 21st of August 2018. As you hear on the Earthquake 3D live stream to talk about seismic events, and we've had a significant series of developments in the last several hours. Let me quickly bring you up to speed. Starting 2 days ago, we had our biggest, deepest earthquake we've ever seen, putting us into uncharted territories as to what to expect off this big, deep event. We ventured out two possibilities. One, a single larger earthquake coming up next to the big, deep event, and two, a planet-wide disturbance that spreads out across the whole planet within a short period of time. Well, option two is what Mother Nature appears to have taken, and we have a new 7.3 breaking out here at the plate boundary between the Caribbean and South America, due east of where our previous disturbance just was a day and a half ago, off the shores of Panama and Costa Rica. Let me turn on a display capture so you can see what I see, and I'll point out the areas. So our big, deep earthquake all the way across the Pacific had an effect over here in Venezuela, and major damage occurred, guys. So big cracks in the ground, houses knocked down, floors split open, roads collapsed. Big time movement, buildings collapsed, that kind of stuff. Big time activity over here. Now that's the largest in years. So to get this within a day and a half of this is definitely a connection. Then, while we were on reporting about this, showing everybody what was going on, and there was a localized tsunami alert around the area for the first hour, now over here, a new 6.6, 6.7, upper 6 strikes, near 7, next to our big, deep quake. So we get a second large earthquake right next to it in the middle of our silent zone. You guys remember, we talked about this last night between here and here. Well, it came in just next to our warned area, and that's expected. Now it's going to go over to the west and fill out into our other silent zone. So this puts us into Papua New Guinea, and it puts us over into Indonesia, sandwiched in between these quakes. So if you're in Indonesia, let's say you're in Lombok, okay, well, we have a warning going right now for Lombok for a 6.5, striking right on the eastern side of this cluster. So it really goes to the east in between the two islands, and we go back towards East Timor as the other location. So everyone from East Timor all the way past Lombok over to the west, over into Java, needs to be on watch because there's force coming in. Look which way our arrows point. So far, the arrows to the west, to the east, to the south, and going up to the north have all moved. The area to the west is the next spot for force to accumulate. So from Papua New Guinea, where the force is accumulating, look at this. We have two similar sized earthquakes, and the middle point in between must be under stress. So again, from Indonesia across Papua New Guinea into Solomon Islands is where our current force resides, and it's coming up across the plate. Now, this is not all that's going on. There's more going on. In Indonesia itself, you had your deep earthquake a few days back, your deep 6.5. Let's show that to you. It's in dark red, and it's raised high off the globe here. So this deep earthquake, in its own right, we watch for 7 days. Well, this happened on the 17th. So it happened 5 days ago. 5 days ago was your deep earthquake, and then we saw 6.9 and 6.3, but we've gone down in magnitudes in the past day and a half. We're in 4s and 5s. Well, this is going to go back up, I think, into 6.5, so it'll be a big increase. Why? All of this is coming your way. It also went over to South America, so South America already caught it over to the west. We are on a 10-day watch from the point of this big quake. This big quake happened 2 days ago. So we have 8 more days in the watch going all the way over to Europe and the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. I'll get into Europe in a second, but this primarily focuses on the West Pacific and East Pacific, because the East Pacific also is in motion. We go down here across South America, and we have a direct line of the same size quakes from Central America to South America. Well, in between, we have Peru, and Peru doesn't have any activity. And there hasn't been any significant activity in Peru in a long time now, many weeks. So we have big movement up here. Stands to reason we should also see similar large movement in the next several days. At our areas to the south, in the silent zones, there's only 2 silent zones. One in Peru, and one down to the south, all the way down here in South Chile. So 2 silent zones across South America. How about a 3rd silent zone in North Mexico in the Gulf of California? Don't kid yourselves. With movement like this going on at the center of what? The center between North and South America, direct center. Middle fulcrum point between 2 plates is moving. So it's vast areas where the middle fulcrum points are being filled in. All we need to do is trace this arrow over to the east, and that points us right to where the force ends up, before it ends up at our termination points. All the termination points have been hit. X marks the spot in the last day. So South Sandwich Islands hit directly. X marks the spot. X marks the spot in the central Atlantic. North of Ascension Island, and Azores hit as expected. Also Iceland, the most recent earthquake. So it's a spread evenly as the central Atlantic comes under pressure. This seismic force that I'm talking about starts here and flows like a fluid, following the plate boundaries, following the arrows. Once we get over to Europe, once we get past Asia, look at our spread of 4s. Iran started to move today, and Italy was hit, as well as Spain. So Italy and Spain, you're now moving, as well as a swarm near Campobasso, and another swarm down south in Italy and Sicily. So all 3 locations, south, center, north, moving along the plate boundary in Italy. And these 2 earthquakes, this 4.0 and this 4.0, struck 5 minutes apart from one another. This is proof that whatever force comes out of North Italy transfers almost instantly across the region. The whole region fills at once, like a glass being filled with water quickly. So first this, and then it transfers out over to the west. The leftovers, again, whatever's not expended off the European plate, the combined total of everything coming off the plate, I should say, And that is, again, the leftovers. Whatever doesn't get expended off the plate strikes out at our two different X's. North France being hit, and we're looking at the English Channel still. We still have several days to go on the English Channel. Actually, it's South England, down near Devon, is where I'm looking. So when you look across Europe, you see a spread of fours. We're not done yet. This whole thing is going to light, it already is lighting up, but it's going to light up even more as force flows out across the Pacific in the next 8 days. So when I look across Europe and I see that Italy's being hit now and there's a new incoming brunt of pressure, we should probably just go ahead and warn for it right now in the South Aegean Sea. Right here, Central South Aegean Sea, where the force is coming across and there's a jumbled mess of broken islands and volcanic islands in here. The very center, north of Crete, east of Greece, west of Turkey. I'll put the warning right here. Let's put it at 5.7 to 5.9 now. Let's actually take it up a notch. Because, again, we're talking about force coming across. It could be pretty big, guys. It could be pretty big in South Europe in the next several days. So Aegean would get hit here first, then it will split 3 ways. Now that we know what kind of force we're dealing with coming out, we got a 6-point-something coming out, that means it's going to flow over to the west. And by the time it gets over here, it should be upper 5, and then it'll break 3 ways. And once an upper 5 breaks basically 3 ways, we're looking at 5s across Europe, not 4s. Do you follow me on this? So it looks like a magnitude increase across Europe is due in the next several days, the next 8 days. It's going to follow all these spots that we are currently being hit. So, I mean, Western Spain, North Portugal. Well, by the end of this coming week, if this pans out, Italy will be hit with a 5. We'll see 5 over here on the eastern side of Europe, from Poland down to Romania. We'll see a 5 right in the middle going up through Slovenia, I'm sorry. So through Slovenia and Serbia up next to the Austria border. And we'll see Italy get hit. And then finally over here to the west. So really it'll be four different earthquakes, but 3 different ways. Okay, so I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I mean, if I'm wrong, it'll probably come in under now. I mean, from what it looks like, we're coming in just under. Okay, so this one's spot on. So magnitude-wise, spot on. We would expect this one just a little under. So is there more coming up? It could be. Or more of the force is flowing over to the east. Those are the 2 options. Wait and see. That's the attitude at this point. When you're in uncharted waters, you got to look all around. You have to have every man on deck and be constantly on watch. So far, what we would expect to happen has happened, but it's so vast. It's not just happening right next to the location right here. It has spread 3/4 of the way around the planet, going all the way over towards Europe and the Middle Atlantic Ridge that way, going all the way. Oh, I didn't even talk about this. New 5.0 and 4.7 near 5 in Congo. Here is Congo, and here is Mayotte Island. Mayotte Island is right in here. So Mayotte is there. Look, we've got new earthquakes striking across Africa too. So 5.0 displacement all the way across the entire. How much force do you think it would take to displace Africa on a 5.0, the Mideast on a 5.0, the West-Northwest Pacific on 5.0, and all the way over here on a 7, 5, 4, 5, and 7 basis? That is so much force that we're dealing with here right in the middle. Again, if this was the windshield of a car, this is the giant fracture in the middle, and then the cracks spreading out following the plate boundaries being excited and jostled around. Now, I haven't even talked about the United States, haven't even really talked about anything else other than the big earthquake so far. So if we go up to Japan, we've got ourselves a situation happening north of Japan in the Kuril Islands. Let's go consult the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center really quick, because a volcano we've never seen on the list is on the list today. So we have Ibeco up in the north tip of the Kuril Islands, but this one, Alade, over and over again, Alade, on here all day. So where did that come from? Well, Sakurajima is also erupting, so we have Sakurajima, we have Alade, we have Ibeco, Dukono, and Sabancaya. That's it? Really? Okay, well, that's it. Okay, well, we are focused now up here in the Northwest Pacific. Sakurajima erupting multiple times here. Alade and Ibeco erupting right here. Dukono erupting right here. Okay, so focused here volcanically. Now we go over here, and all our volcanoes stopped. Popocatépetl, Fuego, Turrialba, Reventador, and we have one set of eruptions here at Sabancaya in South Peru. So we're lopsided. Northwest Pacific letting us know there's force coming into these middle points. And also make note, look where the volcanoes are. We've got two erupting right here, and we've got one erupting right here. You notice anything about these two spots? How about they're both centered between our sets of quakes? They're the middle points between our sets of quakes, where we have eruptions happening right now. That's no coincidence. It's a middle fulcrum point, but we're seeing eruptions happen at those middle fulcrum points in the Northwest Pacific, indicating that not only is the plate shifting this way, but it's shifting to the northwest, which means Japan is going to get hit. And you know what? It may even be the same sized earthquake that strikes over next to Venezuela. We'll have to wait to see. So I want people to be ready now. Our middle fulcrum points are pretty obvious to see. Right here in Japan, South Japan, and right here in the Kuril Islands, North Japan. Pretty obvious, right? Eruptions happening on both sides, two middle open points. We hope it's less. Same with down here at Papua New Guinea. No new eruptions around over to the east, but we do have eruptions down over to the west. Well, right here, boom, it's a middle point we need to watch. Oh boy, this is going to be, the next several days, I can now tell for certain that it's going to be just a wild next several days, at least with the 4s, 5s, and 6s, and, going up to upper 6s. We'll wait and see if any more come in. Now, look at the United States. As if we needed any more proof about a fulcrum point being filled in, a halfway point. This is what we talked about last night at 10 p.m. So last night at 10 p.m., we pointed out this spot between Haida Gwaii and Vancouver. It's been weeks or more since this spot has been hit by anything significant that showed up on any USGS feed. Now here we are, the middle point has been filled in. And by what? By something borderline upper 4. So whether it's 4.6 or 4.8 or whatever, it's somewhere in the upper 4 range, and that's significant increase to go from nothing, or 2s, 1s and 2s at the spot, to go from 1s and 2s up to a 4. It's a big increase in power. Well, where did the big increase in power come from? Came from up in Alaska. Where did it come from in Alaska? Came from over to the west. All we need to do is go back a few days. Look. So here's our last set of quakes. Pushed over, caused new activity all the way over here in the United States. So we're the last on the receiving end. Let me get a sip of my coffee while we're at it here. So, we're last on the receiving end, and when we receive it, it usually is the leftover force that's coming across out of Japan, Kamchatka, and Alaska and Aleutian Island chain. Only when we see a flare-up or a break on the plate boundary do we see an increase down to the south. Now, guys, last night, let me take you over and show you what I showed you last night. The real-time tremor map here at the University of Washington. Here's the last 24 hours. Remember, I showed you yesterday, and we told you it was dying out. 2 days ago, it was lit up. Now, today and yesterday, there's next to nothing, just a handful of little red dots across the northwest. Well, what did I tell you? When it springs up and it loads with that tension, then, when it dies, it releases that tension. And it releases in the middle fulcrum point nearest to where the tension built. So as this is all building up here, these fires broke out over to the east. You guys know about these fires, right? Going all the way up the west coast, starting at our earthquake swarm locations and on the backsides of volcanoes, or around the flanks of volcanoes. Now, when those happened, many people showed up below my videos, and this is back when I was still on the other former social media site. When the fire started up, people said it was a coincidence, and I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm just showing you the fires and telling you where they are. They match up with our earthquake swarm locations and our volcanoes. Their best explanation was that it was a coincidence that they matched. Well, let me just take you over and show you. Somebody asked me to show this, and I will go show it to you. We're going to go over to College of DuPage and go on to the GO16 viewer. And what I want to do is actually open up a sub-regional section of the area and go up here into Vancouver, BC. Well, actually outside of Vancouver, but we're going into BC. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn on our natural color fire, and we're going to look at our last 200 images. So this will bring us over last night into this morning. Now what I want to draw your attention to here are these kind of reddish colors. You might have to full screen this to see it. Now just wait. Okay, so we'll go throughout the day today. And then you're going to start to see it. See these colors. Let me bring it in at a closer view. A closer view probably will do it justice. So we'll do the same thing, 200 images. Yeah, okay, now you should be able to see it. See these reddish colored splotches? Now this is actually visible from outer space, from our satellites. So right there, for instance, a flare-up right along the border where the earthquakes are happening, where I thought a quarry is. Well, guys, the explosions that are happening out there might be explosions from trees and other things that are big explosions of some kind, maybe tanks of some kind exploding. They do have oil and gas out here, but it's just going off all over the location. Now, this doesn't really do it justice. Let me take you down into Washington and show you Washington's same view. So again, this is going to go last 200 images. So you'll see our little red dots here, and those red dots, again, are the fires that are going throughout the night into the morning. And then throughout the day, it's kind of hard to see, but then, boom, you see them really flare off there. Now, these fires, again, just coincidentally, broke out, or not coincidentally, again, we are wondering about, you know, what we would call coincidence at this point is kind of, you know, something that we are going to have to go into a little bit deeper. But I look at this, and I see the little red splotches popping up all over here. Those are just, the fires are beyond massive, just to put it in perspective for everybody. So the amount of smoke that's coming out of these areas and the fact that there's volcanoes right next to them, let me prove that to you. We'll go up here across the Pacific and just show it to you. Whoops. Here we go. So here's BC, and we're going to zoom in on the area. Here's where our earthquake just struck, right here in between Hawaii and Vancouver. And then we go over to the east where the fires are. Boom, Navsco. These are old volcanic ranges. Very old. But they're burning. Right next to them, on top of them, all around them. I don't know. We're going to have to put 2 and 2 together at some point. Now, let's quickly go turn on our 0.0 and greater earthquake feed for the United States. Just so you can understand what's going on here in the U.S. We are swarming out on the southern edge of the craton, all the way across the southern edge. We've got new swarms in Southern California. We've got new swarms across, oh, not swarms, a new cluster across the center portion of the craton at the drill points, all the same size, 1.7 and 1.8. And New Madrid seismic zone coming under pressure, same size, 1.8. Now, where did that 1.8 come from? How about another 1.8 that struck a few days ago down here in Mississippi, when the first 6.1 struck down here, next to Panama and Costa Rica. So the southern edge of the craton is being compressed. Take a look at it. There's the diagram of it. The southern edge is being pushed up from Central America and the Caribbean. It's being compressed. And the compression point, of course, the New Madrid seismic zone. Break point in the crust. But it's not that big right now. We're waiting to see what happens. It could very well be that everyone across the edge of the craton is going to get a little disturbance in the next several days. Again, 8 days is what we're watching. We just got the record earthquake here in the past several years over in Venezuela. It could very well be that Midwest and West Coast United States might be standing out for a new round of activity that's even bigger than what we're looking at now. But already we're flirting around with mid-range 4. That means it's going to be coming in here to the northwest and going down into California. So everywhere where we currently see small little stacks of quakes, which are, I would call, this one is a small swarm, this one's a small swarm, this one's a cluster. So 10 or more earthquakes I consider a swarm. So we got small swarms going on. This is going to go through the roof with the new 4.6 that just happened up here. When I say through the roof, you know, that might be a little bit over the top right there, but it's going to increase. Each different spot is going to see a big stack of new earthquakes as new forces coming in. But this isn't even the tip of the iceberg on the full force that's being applied on the plate. A 4.6, that's just filling in our area in our middle fulcrum point, letting us know force is being applied across the whole plate. That's just the first wave on this. Again, the whole plate got hit by 5s all the way around yesterday going into today, and the US was the last to get hit with our, well, near 5, mid-range 4. So if the whole plate moves on a 5.0 basis on day 1, and then we start going into day 2 on 24 or 48 hours in, and we see this, and we see this, then it stands to reason in the next several days, it may increase even more. And if it increases more, then that's the next step up, as we were expecting. Now, the people over in Indonesia, let me wrap this up. I don't want to be too long-winded here, but we have a warning going for the people down in New Zealand, off the eastern coast of New Zealand for a 6.7. So we're looking for about the same sized earthquakes to strike not only on North New Zealand, but over here in Indonesia. I would expect an equal distribution of force at this point. So if we get a 6.5, 6.6, 6.7 here, I would expect a 6.5, 6.6, 6.7 down here, and I would expect the same over to the west. Up in Japan, I would expect the combined total. So it would go a little bit bigger, especially because the volcanic eruptions are also letting us know there's a fair amount of force coming into Japan right now. So for my Japanese viewers, guys, much love. You have time to prepare. Everybody's got time to prepare. There's no reason not to watch this at this point. The mainstream media, hush hush. Shame on them. But we don't care about them. We don't need them. And we don't need mainstream science either, I don't think. Well, we do, but not in the way that, you need publicity or something to get out. We can do this. You guys are playing an instrumental part. Now, just a few days ago, when the big earthquake hit over here in Indonesia, we had Indonesian viewers that were in chat live when the earthquake hit. Not only did they get the warning, but they were in chat live to report to us what was happening. So they got the warning, they knew to be on watch, they were in chat, they were discussing with people, and then boom, the earthquake hit. We were in touch with the highest levels of people in Indonesia, by the way, on that. So there's no debating whether or not they got the message this past time. So the first time, there's some question. Did they get it or not? Well, we'll never know because they took the warning and clipped the date out and attacked our moderator and all kinds of stuff. Well, okay, that's water under the bridge. I'm not here to attack them. I'm here to tell them that we issued warnings, and now the warnings are coming to pass. Now, are they going to happen again? This big, deep earthquake. Again, I'm sailing in uncharted waters. When we go on a voyage of discovery, usually it's something that I kind of already rhetorically know, and I'm just asking you if you want to go along with me on a voyage of discovery. Well, now we're sailing again off into something we don't know, and so far it's played out pretty much as expected. So how could we expect it? Well, I'm basing my decisions on what happens with other previous deep earthquakes, but none this size. I'm just applying it out greater at greater distances, that's all. That's the only difference between this earthquake and a deep 5 that we've been talking about in the past, for instance. But it's a deep 8. So, of course, we go 3 times further, right? No, actually go 1,000 times further. When we go up that many magnitudes, we start getting up into the 1,000-fold increase in power kind of thing. So would it be a 1,000-fold increase in distance? Apparently so. And when that happens, that's a huge, huge step across the planet in a one fell swoop in 1 day's time. I think we're dealing, and I'm pretty sure we are dealing, again I say think because I don't have real proof of this yet, that the seismic waves we're talking about here, the force that's traveling across distances, not to be confused with the actual shaking that an earthquake causes. Like, for instance, this earthquake will occur and it'll cause shaking localized for maybe a few hundred miles in each direction. Let's say 200 or 300 miles in one direction and 200 and 300 in the other. So 600 total miles around might feel the shaking off a big earthquake like this. But it's not that this earthquake can somehow cause another earthquake by the shaking over here within a few days. No. It's that both this earthquake and the coming earthquake that's going to strike in the middle here are both caused by the same force traveling across the distance in 2 days. So what I think is happening here is a standing wave is forming of VLF. Mother Nature generated VLF. Well, where's Mother Nature generating VLF? The core. The core. Don't want to get into a huge scientific debate right now, but I'm here to tell you guys the VLF is coming from somewhere down inside the crust, down below the crust, and if it's coming from the magma is generating VLF somehow, radio waves, and I would say it's more likely the core that's generating that, but again, this is a subject of intense debate amongst scientists. The core, I think, is plasma, and plasma resonates VLF. It's already proved. So plasma energy will resonate very low frequency, and if it comes up at a vertical from the core up to the bottom of the plate and hits the bottom of the plate or the asthenosphere, there's deep earthquake activity, vertically, and then horizontally spreading out. So like a tree first coming up the stalk, and then, up the base, and then going up to the top and spreading out at the branches at the top. Or like a lightning bolt. Here's another example. Lightning coming out of the ground, it's branching up into the sky. Well, the same thing would be happening from the core. It would be a conduit, quote unquote, from one of my moderators, which is a great description, or a wire. A direct electric line that goes from the core, like a lightning bolt, coming up to the asthenosphere. When it hits the asthenosphere, it spreads out, branches out in all directions. And I think it may very well be a piezoelectric type energy, an electricity or a waveform, a VLF in the ground that forms a standing wave. You know why I think it's a VLF too? It's not that I just think that. I mean, I'm basing my thoughts on the new studies that came out in the past couple of years about the Gorka, Nepal earthquake and the Japan earthquake and the Indonesia earthquake. You know what I'm talking about? I guess I need to go look it up. Hold on. VLF, Gorka, Nepal. I mean, I should have spring it out. There it is, nature.com. And this is June, so just a few months ago they released this. Anomalous variations of VLF, very low frequency, sub-ionospheric signals and mesospheric ozone prior to the 2015 Gorka, Nepal earthquake. What they found is that there were disturbances, VLF, up above the location in the ionosphere, up in the upper atmosphere. VLF was being detected coming out of the ground around the area where the big earthquake then struck a day later. And so VLF built up into a standing wave, and that standing wave, its peaks came up that high. Now think about that. Well, a VLF can be 1,000 mile long, so it could certainly have a standing wave that goes up that high into the upper ionosphere. And let's just show you that. Standing wave tank. One more time. Here's the standing waves that form. So first what happens is, in a tank, or in a closed chamber of any kind, a closed system of any kind, this can even happen in an audio system, just electronically, picking up a voice, and then amplifying it. And as you add more energy into those waves, instead of causing more waves like you think it would, more separate waves that would just slosh around like people splashing in a pool, no. What happens here is something amazing. When you have the same energy input, the waves intake that energy and begin to amplify. Each wave absorbs the energy and becomes higher. And notice the equal distance spacing on these, the equal distance spacing on the waves in the tank. So as you add more energy into it then, of course, the waves will come up and out and just keep peaking. Well, we're talking about very low frequency radio waves in the crust and core, or mantle, and peaking out up into the upper atmosphere. So think of it like this, like a roller coaster, with the top of the roller coaster coming out, going up into the atmosphere, and then the bottom going back down into the earth. So it could very well be that the bottom points of the wave are where the earthquake is striking, or the top, we don't know which. And that's again subject of more study that needs to be done on, I don't even know if the instruments exist to detect these things yet. But nonetheless, we're dealing with VLF coming up out of the ground before large earthquakes, proving that VLF is involved. And if VLF is involved, it's coming from somewhere down below in the crust, or below the crust in the mantle or core. Those are the sources. That's it. It's not coming from out in space, going down into the ground. It's coming from the ground and going out into space. Amazing that it even is doing that, right? But VLF, I mean, look, VLF is already proved to induce seismic activity. And they can use VLF, humans can, to generate VLF, to look into the ground. Earth-penetrating tomography is done via VLF and plasma. So HARP, for instance, up in Alaska, will target an area, over an area with high frequency and zap the area, basically, until it produces aurora air glow, which is plasma. And that'll be up in the upper ionosphere. That plasma then produces VLF that they can target and triangulate and point down at other regions and get a radar signal almost where they bounce VLF off deposits down in the ground many miles across. They can see oil deposits. That was the original creation for HARP by Bernard Eastland, was for earth-penetrating tomography to look into the northern slopes of Alaska. And so here we are, and now VLF is coming up out of the ground instead of going down into it. But we know when VLF goes into the ground that it can induce earthquake activity on already prone faults. Well, and it stands to reason Mother Nature could do it too. It's just going to be more powerful and over a much broader area. So now I hope you guys start to understand. Do not be scared. There is no reason to be scared. We now have a firm grasp and understanding about where pressure originates, down below the plate, and it spreads out following the avenues. The avenues are the plate boundaries and the fracture zones. Once we get to a plate, the force is absorbed and taken across the interior edges of the plate, called the craton edges. Following the craton interiors, the force flows out, seeking a path of least resistance. It seeks a way for equilibrium. It goes out to the mid-Atlantic ridge across the huge fracture that starts at the North Pole and goes to the South Pole. And it cannot pass beyond this. This is like a wall it cannot pass. The force can't jump over the crack in the plate. It's many miles across. And it can't go underneath it because it's a crack that goes all the way down through the plate into the asthenosphere. So if it can't go over it and it can't go under it, then guess what happens? The force is absorbed by the plate there and transferred through the plate back out the other side to the antipode. Now this gets me into one final thing. The antipode. The antipodes. This has just been announced in the past couple weeks, let's say 2 to 3 weeks ago. Professionals came out and announced that antipode earthquakes happen. That an earthquake of significant size, they used 6.5s as an example, but they studied thousands of test cases. 6.5 happens on one side of the planet, and within 3 days, on the opposite side of the planet, we get a similar sized earthquake. Well, you know what? Let's go look at our antipodes and figure out what our antipode is exactly for the Indonesian earthquake. So come along with me. Let's go to antipodes map. Always useful. Haven't used it in a while. We just normally look on Earthquake 3D. Uh-oh. We got an error in the map. Oh, okay. I got to sign up. What? Oh, they're making me sign up now? Okay, we're not going to sign up. We're just going to go over and look. That's fine. It'll still work without signing up. So here's what we do. We go over here and we click on Lombok. Right here. And look where it comes out. Look where it comes out. Comes out on the exact antipode where the big earthquake just struck in Venezuela. So, we get a big deep earthquake and a series of earthquakes on one side of the planet here, and the exact antipode within a day or two gets struck with the combined total of everything on the other side. So on the other side of the planet, the antipode, and we've got the articles and studies linked down below in this Twitch or YouTube live stream, whichever you're watching, to go read up on this for the antipode earthquakes. So it's now proved. Now, this is something I've been telling you for, what, 7 years? We've been telling you this for 7 years. I was ridiculed by professionals for telling you this. Well, now here it is. You get to see it real time. It's the exact antipode. Again, antipode map doesn't lie. This is strictly just taking it in on one side and putting it out on the other. And if we really want to be specific, here is, let's get in real close. Here is the spot in between Mount Rinjani and West Nusa Tenggara. It's a perfect match. It's within just a few miles. So, amazing stuff that we're talking about here as you guys get to see it live. Now, the reason I've done this all live for the past few years is nobody would believe this if you were recording it in a video. Nobody would believe it. You have to see it all live. It's just that simple. That's why I started 2 years ago. People didn't believe. They thought I was cherry-picking earthquakes and stuff. They said I was faking earthquakes. They said I was a hacker. Sorry, guys. You're giving me too much credit. I can barely tie my shoes on a computer, okay? I mean, I'm good, but I'm not that good. I can play games. I'm great at gaming. Up until this. Who can play a game now? All right, so you guys, you go play games. You know what? While you're out gaming, if you're on Twitch, will you please spread the word on earthquake awareness? It's probably a good idea. And here's what you tell people. Look, we had the biggest, deepest earthquake we've ever seen. It's spreading out in all directions like a fracture in a windshield. There's shallower, larger earthquakes that are spreading out across the planet, and it's a good idea to have a plan if you live along one of the plate boundaries. If you don't know where a plate boundary is, that's what the stream is running for here now, so you can see where the earthquakes are progressing, and you can watch the arrows and see how they get filled in with new earthquakes over the course of a few days. I do my global earthquake forecast for a reason. They're in a video so you can sit there and hit play and do something else and just listen to my voice in the background telling you where to watch. It should be pretty easy to do. You can fast forward to the spots where you live if you don't want to hear the whole world's forecast. But I would suggest listening to the whole world's forecast, not for my video's sake. God, it can be tedious. I can barely listen to myself back. But in all seriousness, it helps to know where it starts and where it's going. just like a storm. You want to know where it starts and where it's going to go. So in order to understand where it's going to go, you have to understand where it's already gone. You have to watch its path, its trajectory. And there is a trajectory to this seismic force. It starts down below, comes up, spreads out, following the plate boundaries away from the big disturbance. Upwards, outwards, and away. Are you shocked? Are you shocked when you lift on something that it moves upwards and outwards and away from where you're lifting? No, it's just such a vast area that people didn't think it could happen. Professionals thought it was too big. Up till this year, up till 2 months ago even. Quote unquote, these areas are, quote unquote, too far apart, end quote, to be related. And I asked for a definition of too far. Nobody could define too far from me. Well, we know that was a dogma, and that one's just been shattered in half. So these dogmatic rules in geophysics that people set for some reason, again, it's hogwash. We've debunked it now. So, all right, you guys, you have been incredible. I will be back. Okay, I'll be back. In just a few, and we'll do another update. We're going to keep doing these all night. I've got my coffee brewed. We're going to watch and wait and see if it progresses over to the west today. It took 2 days for it to progress out this far. So will it take another 2, or will it take the full more 8 days? We are 8 more days to go on this. So a 10-day watch, 2 days in, 8 days to go. You need a plan. You do. I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're a troll of mine or if you've never heard of me before. Please take the time to develop a plan so you can live to survive another day. And if you're a troll, you can go troll some more. And if you're not, and if you're looking for actual advice, I'm going to tell you, you need to have an emergency kit and you need to be ready to go at a moment's notice with what's going on right now. I know I am, and I haven't even issued a warning for my area. I'm just ready to go in case I'm wrong. And I want you to be on that level. Now, you don't have to be sitting there, with your clothes, backpack on your back. I'm just talking about having your emergency kit stocked and ready. Be ready to go at a moment's notice. If you're asleep, put your shoes by the side of the bed, have a change of clothes either laid out or ready to go. And that's pretty much the best you can do. And then to wait, and wait for it to progress across these regions. So we'll be back at 10 p.m. Central Time. That's basically an hour and 15 minutes. So 1 hour from now, we're going to reiterate everything I just told you and go even deeper into the earthquakes and go look up all the volcanoes and go look everything up. And we might take an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours to do this tonight, to do a full update. I have no problem talking all night. So I've got the throat lozenges out, I've got the coffee brewed, and I'm ready to go. This is go time. This is what I was made for and what I've been training for years. So it's already all happened. We're 2 days in on it, and it's like, well, I mean, it's almost like, a fireman would be trained, and then all of a sudden it's time to go. So we are ready to go, and you guys have played your part. We have gotten the warnings out already to many people. So it's just a matter of time. Are the middle areas filled in? And that's where I come in to, bring you up to speed and tell you what's going on if you haven't already seen it. A lot of people don't understand what they're looking at here on the globe. It looks like a gobbledygook mess to new people who come in. I don't blame them. It does. It looks like a bunch of rings and you don't understand what put a pin cushion of something. Well, once you get your mind around what you're looking at, it really is like watching the weather come your way. Guys, again, thank you so much for everybody. All the new subscribers, everybody here who's new. We're trying to save as many lives as possible, or at least avert injuries. I'll never know if we've really saved lives until somebody contacts me and tells me. They did over in Italy 2 years ago when the big one hit in Italy, and we issued the warning the day before. They went on BBC News and said thank you to all my viewers and me, and they got the warning the day before and went to the mayor of the town and told them, and they were all sleeping by the doors and ready to go. That was 2 years ago when I first started the live stream. And it was the largest earthquake to hit Italy in decades. But because they got the warning, guess what? When the earthquake hit, they hit the door and went out. And guess how many people died? 0. On the largest earthquake in decades. And just a few months before that, when my warning got held back by the social media giant who I don't make videos for anymore, or live stream anymore, and usually, hundreds of people died when they didn't get the warning. So that's the difference. Now, I'll never know if they don't contact me, or if they do, it gets buried in all the other comments or whatever from YouTube. But I know we've made a difference, especially this past time with Indonesia and the people that were live in chat. They thank you. I thank you. I don't have a big marketing company, and I'm not part of a multi-channel network of any kind. So I don't have any way to distribute my stuff except for grassroots, by word of mouth, on social media, or if you actually call the people or something on the phone, or text them, or email. I rely on you, and that's the way I like it. It actually makes it so the people who need to get the messages are getting the messages. It's not, being put to some marketing company to decide who gets the messages. Oh my God, could you imagine that? Okay, we'll be back here 1 hour, 15 minutes, 10 p.m. Central Time. You have time to get the warnings out. You have time to share the live stream. Or if you want to, you can type down the areas where we've warned. And I'll go over the magnitudes again. But one more time, Indonesia, we're looking for 6.5 to 6 points, somewhere in that upper 6 range, I think. I hope I'm right. Japan might be a little bigger. Papua New Guinea, combined total between the two, also should be fairly large, about the size of what's hitting over in Venezuela. The antipodes are moving. What more do we need? Indonesia, Venezuela, two opposite sides of the planet, exactly the opposite sides of the planet, within one's a 6.9, the other's a 7.3. This is just an amazing time in geophysics, in science in general, but in geophysics, it's just... Can you guys give me an amen on this? Even if you hate me, you gotta admit, this stuff is getting wild, and I'm glad I was part of it. Look, whether you like me or not, I put my best in on this. This is an intriguing topic to me, and you can tell I'm interested in it. It's all I talk about every day for 2, 3, 5 years, whatever, 8 years. And for the last 2 years straight on the live stream is what I'm getting at. That this is something that I think in the future, so many other scientists can build on. It's like the foundations of meteorology. I'm not elevating myself to that. I'm just saying, like, the principles behind what we're finding are the foundational principles of geophysics going forward. And, for everybody who said it couldn't be done, I don't blame you. I don't. As a matter of fact, if I would have heard a guy on social media before I ever came along saying, oh, I figured out a way to forecast earthquake, I would have been just like you guys. I probably would have come after him and been a jerk and all kinds of stuff. But the only thing I'd like to give myself credit for is, as a true skeptic, I would at least try to repeat the method. It's just like anything. When you hear something insane, it's like when people were standing the brooms on their end and saying it was defying gravity and it was a sign of pole shift and stuff. You want to test it. I went and got the broom. I set it up. I got a bunch of brooms. I set them up. I do this all the time for stuff. When I hear it and it doesn't sound right, I go and look it up and try to figure out what it is. So when people told me earthquakes were random back in 2010 and 2011, and I start seeing a progression of quakes, and I tell my wife to look out, and the next day it hits, and she says back to me, why didn't you make a video? I say, well, you know what, you're right. I probably should have made a video. That way at least people would be documented. And so I started making videos. And then people said I was cherry-picking locations and hacking earthquakes in to make it look like I was right. That's when I knew I was onto something. Like, that's really... When my wife told me first, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll tell everybody. And then once they accused me of faking it, I was like, what? I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm not a hacker. And I tried to defend myself, and they're like, oh, you're trying to defend yourself. That means you're guilty. I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, never mind, man. And then that's when the skeptic forums came in, and they denied it completely for years, and now here we are. Antipode earthquakes are confirmed. Progression of quakes across distances are happening. The deep earthquakes are causing shallower, larger earthquakes, and I just happen to be the unlucky guy who got the hot potato to show you what I was seeing. And it was just because I spent day after day after day after day looking at the earthquakes after the Japan incident. That's it. I mean, that's why we noticed the pattern, and the rest is history. Okay, so you guys have played an instrumental part in all this. I would have never gone on beyond just a short distance without you guys supporting me, or at least showing some kind of, will to hear the information. I'll see you back here again. Now it's 8:50, so it'll be an hour and 10 minutes. You have time to share. You have time to go take care of yourself, of course. Your restroom break, food, whatever you got to do. And we'll be back here at 10 p.m. Central Time. 1 hour, 10 minutes. Peace out.